Hey, what is going on, everyone? It's me, Mr. Mario. Welcome back to another episode of Mario's Minute. For those of you who have not listened to this before, I'm your host, Mr. Mario 2011, and this is a podcast that I typically like to do at the end of near the end of the month or so. I typically release this on the last Wednesday of every month. It hasn't been every single last Wednesday of every month, but it has been monthly for almost 2 years now at this point because we're on episode 21. So again, for anyone that does not know, this is just a podcast I do where I talk about whatever the hell I want to, and I have been pretty good about it this year. I typically try to have a guest on every other episode so we can mix it up a little bit. So the guest I have with us today is someone who I've known for quite a while, and I guess before I even get into this fully, forgot about this too. As I said, this is a podcast. You can check this out either on YouTube or on your favorite podcasting platform by looking up Mario's Minute on your favorite podcasting app or whatever you're using, or you can check it out on YouTube on the Mr. Mario 2011 channel. Getting back to the guest here, again, someone I've known for quite a while. I want to say 8 years now at this point. And without further ado, to my guest here, who the hell are you?
Oh, I was hoping you're gonna introduce me by name so I could boo myself. Hi, my name is David Moss. I'm a game developer at Pathogen Studios.
Right on.
I make computers do neat stuff, mostly video games. It's pretty neat.
I appreciate that. And you go by Pathogen-David online for anybody who's confused, right?
At Pathogen-David on Twitter. And that's really the only place you should follow me. You can follow Pathogen Studios on Twitter or Facebook,
sure,
or whatever.
And I'll
decide that after you hear me talk for a while.
And I'll plug those after. I'll plug those down below in the description on the YouTube upload of this. So if anyone wants to check you out, they totally can. But you're doing game stuff now, right?
Yep. Currently working on a game called Back to Her. It's a roguelite cyberpunk thing. You can check out the story teaser comic that we have on pathogenstudios.com. I won't ramble about it too much, but
I understand.
Be pretty neat. It's a story heavy roguelite, so it's its own special thing.
I can't wait to play it. I know we're not. That's not the focus of this, mind you. I feel like so many podcasts that I've listened to, like the guest, and I totally understand the guests are always there to promote like their latest special or their latest thing that they released or something. So I just thought this was like
SoundCloud.
Exactly, and I was like, wait, no, David. Even though you're working on this, like, no, you're not here to promote this. You're just here to talk.
Yeah, it's my weekend. I try not to work too much today.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I was gonna do that, but things change and stuff. So, oh well. Anyways, how are you doing, man?
Pretty good. A little bit groggy, but who isn't?
I understand.
Got my tea to help me wake up here.
Did I wake you up this morning or this afternoon?
No, hey man, you'll have to reveal that I was up until 5:30 in the morning while
I didn't say anything. You revealed that yourself.
No, you didn't wake me up. My phone was on very do not disturb.
Okay.
And since I know you tend to call me, you are not on the do not disturb call or bypass list. Although I thought that it was supposed to let you bypass when you called twice in a row, but maybe you called with enough spacing. I don't know.
No, I did call twice in a row. So that's actually for someone. Maybe our listeners don't know about this, but yeah, if you are calling someone and they have a iPhone and their iPhone is in do not disturb mode, you can bypass it by calling it twice within, I want to say, 5 minutes.
Yeah, I think it's 5 minutes. 3 minutes actually.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah, I just looked at if the repeated call setting is on, so they do have to turn this on. I think it's probably on by default, but yeah, second call from the same person within 3 minutes will not be silenced.
Gotcha.
But my vibrate switch was on, so it probably only vibrated the phone, which probably wasn't enough to wake me up because I was a very sleepy gamer.
It's really funny because with that, I didn't find out about that feature until I talked to you and until we discussed that years ago. And I don't know if I told you this, but because of that, that's actually helped me out in other work situations.
Yeah, it's pretty nice.
Yeah. Yeah,
I kind of wish it'd be. I mean, I guess it doesn't because they want. The idea is that if you really need a hold of someone, you're probably going to try calling them more than once.
Sure.
I guess, but it'd almost be nice if like Siri picked up and was like, "Hey, David's phone is muted. If this is super important, then press 1 or call again. Goodbye."
But then every single person's going to say their phone call is super important.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think it depends on the person. Like, like my parents call for basically no reason at all sometimes, which is fine. I like that. But they, they would acknowledge, oh, okay, David has his phone muted. And he probably doesn't want us to call him right now. Send him a tweet. He'll get to us eventually.
For sure. Yeah, I think the situation I think it mainly called for before was I was helping with, there was a customer that, this is a job I had a few years ago, they were getting upgraded, they were doing a cutover and such, and there was something that just wasn't working. And I was like, guys, can you check this? They said, yeah, this is all fine. I said, it's not working though. Like, can you check it again? And they said, oh, wait, because of this change we made, this ended up happening. We have to make this change. I was like, all right, who can do it? None of us on the call. This guy can do it. And he just went to bed. And so they tried calling him, and then they got back to me, and they said, yeah, we called him. He's not picking up. And I was quickly like, okay, did you call the cell phone? Yeah. Does he have a iPhone or an Android? And they said iPhone because it was on Do Not Disturb. And I was like, you have to call him twice within 5 minutes. Please do that. We need him on the call.
Yeah.
And we got a hold of him, thankfully. So thank you for that advice.
There you go. Glad I could help.
Yeah, he did not sound very happy to be on the line. He never did, but he was especially sleepy this time. So it was like, as opposed to having attitude, we just had sleepiness. But we were like, well, dude, nothing is working. You're the only person qualified to make this change. So please do it.
Yeah.
And then what do you know? He made the change and everything worked. And that is why it's important to have everyone assign the proper permissions at something like that when something's going on, like a cutover at 3 a.m.
Oh, so he was the only one with permissions. I thought he was just the only one qualified.
Yeah, no. In short, from what I remember, we had, because there were some servers that we had turned off, and they had a backup solution in place, and their load balancer was set up so that if the main servers were turned off, it would fail over to the backup servers. But then we finished our work there, so when we turned off the backup servers and turned on the primary ones, the load balancer did not cut back over because the logic wasn't programmed in. You had to cut it back over manually. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a good bus factor right there.
No, it's not. And I told them, I was like, all right, everyone document this and keep it in mind for next time this happens. Yeah, we need to have someone who has those permissions.
Yeah. So. Unfortunately, IT departments notoriously have terrible bus factors.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
Yeah, the internet's littered with stories of people who, like, oh, Jim quit with no notice the other day, and every single server melted instantly, and we don't know how they're configured or where they are. No one can log into anything. We had to go download a bootleg version of Off Crack. It's not bootleg, but
sometimes it's really terrifying to see how much of a major solution at a company relies on one person. And it's like, we have an entire team of people here. Why is it that one person who quit or is out sick is responsible for everything?
Well, it's always like, if the company is like 4 people, then yeah, sure, your bus factor is going to be bad. That's just how it is. But like, man, you see these companies where it's like, we have 500 employees and one of them is the IT guy.
That's what I'm talking about, yeah. Or even you have an IT department and you have one guy who has all the major control over everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, damn. It's never good.
Nope.
Anyways, David, one thing I wanted to bring up on here is, because when I talk to my guests and such, is how the hell we know each other.
I think we were at like Asin's birthday party. Well, I guess that's where we bonded. I don't remember how we met initially, but we bonded at Asin's birthday party because we went there and we were the awkward nerds in the corner together.
Pretty much. I remember that was the first time we
talked about video games instead of dancing.
I remember that was the first time we like really, really hung out. Like I remember our I think it was like a CIS. It was like a 115 class.
That's right.
That
Yeah, that's
pointless
where
class that we were in that together. That was
yeah,
just
that's right. We did. Yeah, that's. I guess I should have known that we met in the department, but that's where we really became friends. Was Addison's birthday party.
yes, yeah.
'Cause they were all those rapscallions drinking their underage liquor and smoking their weed, and we were just like, nah, man.
Yeah. Although full disclosure, none of that really happened until it was like we've talked about this until we got to the after party, and that's where everyone was getting
Yeah,
drunk and
yeah. The
high.
after
And
party.
then
The
I
after
remember
party
you and
is
I
where
were
we
like, "This is kind of
left
sketch."
early.
Because like the actual party was fine, and then like you and I were
Yeah.
at the after party. We're like, "This is kind of sketch. It's in this weird neighborhood. It's like 1 a.m. We don't know anyone here. Let's bounce."
Yeah, well, we knew people, but we didn't know enough people to justify staying at the weird after party.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, there was that, and then because for anyone that doesn't know, so David, you had majored in computer engineering, was it?
Software engineering.
Software engineering. All right, and I was in computer science my first year and a half of college, so that's where we had one class that overlapped, and then David helped me out with some homework here and there until I got out of MIS, and then we were neighbors for a bit and even roommates at one point, and we've just
We did
been
it.
kind of friends ever since. Yeah. No, it's been a good
Yeah.
time. That was I will I will sometimes think back fondly and hilariously at like the time we kind of sort of lived together for like a month or month and a half.
I tried to block it out.
Really, it's that bad to you?
No, it wasn't that bad. It's just living in a 1-bedroom apartment with 2 guys who have way too much stuff and are used to living alone.
Yep.
With a crappy air conditioner.
Hey,
was
you were
not
the
a
one
fun
who's
time.
running that ragged, okay? I was the one who was used to it.
Hey, man. I mean, I'm more used to heat now because I learned to get cheap, but it's, I don't know.
You
I
were
like my
accustomed
air
to a certain type of
conditioner.
lifestyle that was ripped away from you for about a month.
I guess. I don't know. I feel like people tend to really not like the heat or existing in the heat until they put in the effort of like suffering through it a long time, or if they grew up in it. Because I got used to heat because I started walking to work.
Okay.
And I decided like I'm even when the sun is out, like, and there's no shade, or there was no shade on my way to work, so like it was pretty bad. I was like, if I don't wake up early, then I'll just have to suffer, and so it was my incentive to help me get up early, I guess.
I think for me, I was used to heat to a degree. Like the worst it got was during the summer in my apartment because I was in like an old style apartment, and it had like a box AC. I'm just explaining it for anyone who is not us. And it had
Yeah,
like
yeah.
a box AC in the living room, but then in the bedroom. And people can see like my old apartment videos. Pretty much any video from 2013 to 2015 on my channel was filmed in my apartment. Most of them were, at least my old one I'm talking about. But yeah, like it was, the bedroom had absolutely no way of moving around air, and there was no fan in there. Like all of that stuff was in the living room, which is really frustrating. So after like 2 or 3 nights of getting this horrible greenhouse effect, I just ended up getting curtains and blacked it out as much as I could, and then got a fan. And that's how I got used to sleeping with a fan, which I don't anymore, because it was like I used to be someone I need to sleep in silence, and I was like, well, I could
Yeah.
either sleep with a fan buzzing, or I could try and sleep just covered in drenched in sweat, which means I'm not going to sleep.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one thing I still am not good at, is I can't sleep when it's warm. Which, isn't there like a scientifically accurate, like proven temperature that humans really need to sleep well?
There has to be. I don't have it in front of me, but there
There
absolutely
was like
has to
there was
be.
like some study that was going kind of viral, and I'm sure it's probably like this one flawed study that really isn't worth considering, but I don't know, I feel like that was earlier this year.
Was it?
According to the little Bing intelligence box thing, the ideal sleeping temperature is 60 to 68 degrees Fahrenheit. So I guess I haven't been sleeping at the optimal temperature for this whole summer. But
Gotcha.
yeah, who knows?
Yeah, I would say so
WebMD
as well,
says 65
too.
to 72, 60 to 67 on sleep.org. Sounds like a thord of people on sleep. According to
7. Yeah,
menshealth.com.
I typically sleep at a higher temperature than that.
Yeah. Well, maybe you shouldn't.
Well, it's expensive to not do that.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Yeah, and you don't have as many trees as I do.
I do not.
Pretty shocking how much the trees help keep the house cool.
They really do.
Like, Killian's AC has to run, basically, constantly in order to keep his house cool. And it's not undersized. He's had people come out to check it. It's, like, the proper size for his house. It's just, he has no trees. His house is just constantly trying to shut off the heat from the sun.
Gotcha.
He also keeps his AC pretty low because his wife doesn't like it warm at all, which they can afford it, so whatever. A little jealous.
Yeah, it's one of those things like, hey, if you can afford it, why the hell not?
Yeah. Well, for a while, Killian was trying to get it because he works from home and he doesn't mind the heat nearly as much as Angela, and he was turning the AC up or down, whatever. He was letting it get hotter, and then trying to cool it off again before Angela got home, and it took so long to cool it down that the energy usage was just, you might as well just let it run the whole day.
I was going to say, like, that's actually one thing I've seen before looking into AC usage and such, where it's like, actually, you really shouldn't let it go. You shouldn't let your house fluctuate more than a few degrees, because if you don't, like, I don't know, let's say during the summer, if you let it go from 65 all the way up to 80, because you're not going to run it during the day, and then you're going to run it again in the evening, your AC is using, as opposed to doing small increments of changes, it has to change at such a drastic rate that at that point you're probably going to be spending more on your AC bill every month for something that you think is saving you money.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just not an ideal situation.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Cooling is dumb.
Cooling is dumb, but I love it at the same time.
I want some geothermal cooling. That would be so nice, but it's not. It's like, yeah, if you ever build a house, it's supposedly way cheaper to do it when the house is being constructed than it is to retrofit.
I can only imagine. I can really only imagine.
So if you ever build a house, splurge that extra 10 grand or whatever to get the geothermal stuff installed.
Yeah, which if you're already building a house, 10 grand's gonna be nothing.
Yeah.
Like on top of everything else.
I don't think it's 10 grand. It's probably even cheaper than that.
Right.
Because really they just dig a super deep hole with like, I forget those things are called. Those big, tall drill auger boys. But they just dig a super deep hole and just put a coolant loop pipe down it and just wire it up into your AC. And when it needs to cool things off, it just runs it down to the ground and it gets cooled off by the dirt and it comes back up cold, and then they just keep cycling it through. Just take all, because really all you're doing is you're taking the heat and moving it somewhere else. You can use an air conditioning compressor to take the heat and move it outside, or you can just dump all the heat into the dirt under your house.
Just as long as it gets out of your house, it's all good.
Yeah, exactly. That's all you're trying to do. Same thing with refrigerators. Refrigerators just taking the heat from inside the box and moving it outside. Yeah. That's why you can't just open the refrigerator to cool your house
I can tell we've talked about this before. You watch Technology Connections.
I do watch Technology Connections, although that's all stuff I knew already.
Right.
But I do like me some Technology Connections.
Yeah. He does good stuff. But yeah, kind of getting
nerd.
Kind of getting back to this before. I know what is it like at that time, because it was because I've wanted to speak about this, I guess, because I think it makes for an entertaining story. And I remember at the time, just because I was in college at the time, and then I was still in college, I was getting my degree, and then I wanted to wait for a few years and everything, because like honestly I don't even think anything would have really happened. But point is, on there, I remember at the time it was because I was living in a older 1-bedroom apartment, and it was very strict of like, I mean, you could have a family in there, but like you couldn't just pile a ton of people in there, mind you, because like you weren't on the lease, for example. So
hey,
I remember
just because that's true doesn't mean we need to incriminate ourselves.
But yeah, no, you weren't on the lease, for example, on that. But I remember in regards to it, it was like, because what was going on, it was you had to get, if I remember correctly, like you had to get out of your apartment by end of July, but you weren't getting your house until like the middle of August.
Well, I didn't even have my house yet at all. I had to. I think It was longer than that. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure I had to be out of my apartment by the end of June. And I didn't end up moving into my house until the middle of August.
Okay, for some reason I remember it being a month and a half. Oh no.
I'm pretty sure it was.
Maybe it felt like 2.5 months to you.
Yeah, it was a rough time. If I were to do it again, I probably would have rented for a year before I bought my house, just to avoid having so many things going on at once.
Right. But it worked out all in the end, so see, it's fine.
Yeah, it worked out.
Yeah.
Definitely not the ideal way to do it, though.
Certainly not. And yeah, like what happened with that was I remember I was interning a few towns over, so I had my apartment at my college, but I was not using it. And I remember David hit me up about it, and you pretty much said like, "Hey, I'm kind of in between all this right now. I'm not going to have any place." Because I remember you mentioned August, and you were like, "Can I stay in your apartment since it's not being used?" And I remember I was like, "Yeah, just get your stuff. It's not even a question. You already have the key because you're taking care of it. Thank you for that." But I said, like, you're taking care of it. Just get your shit over there. Stay in there. Just get acquainted. There's going to be a lot of stuff, but we'll figure it out later. And yeah, then you had probably like half of your stuff in storage is what it looked like. But then the other important stuff you had brought with you. And then again, I was already in a small apartment and I had a lot of shit. So for like at least a month or so, my apartment was a giant fire hazard.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. I mean, so the big issue, so what my strategy was is I put all my furniture in storage, but I took all the stuff that was like either things I needed to be able to use, like my computer, or things that I just wasn't willing to risk to water damage because, you know, all those self-storage places are just like, our roof leaks, we're not fixing it, and we're not responsible for your stuff.
Of course.
Although I actually had a pretty nice self-storage place, but, you know. And I was like, I am not losing all of my games or my GameCube or whatever to flooding in this building I'm never checking on. I did go back and check on it every once in a while just in case, but I just didn't want to play that game.
Of course.
But
yeah, no, but I remember on that we were, so you had it mostly to yourself because occasionally it's like I would normally come like on weekends or something, and it wasn't even that often. So I think there were only like 3 or 4 times I really came back, and then our overlap wasn't really that bad. But I remember that was when we recorded the habanero videos that we did, where like we made that jam, and then we also did the thing where like we each ate a habanero.
Yeah,
you remember that? Yeah, no, that was a good time. Those were some fun times. Those were like some of the most fun times in my apartment. But I remember it was like, oh, this feels horrible, just having like no space to do anything.
yeah, it was pretty rough.
Yeah,
in that regard, and your couch was definitely not.
Oh, dude, that couch was awful. That blue couch, that was horrible. The only reason why I had it was because it was free.
Yeah.
Yeah, gotta love those hand-me-downs. It's funny because like I remember, you know, because I did like some setup videos back then, and I remember there were some people who kind of like poked fun at my furniture, and there's like, really, you got all this stuff, but you can't get some nice furniture? And I'm like, well, dude, one, I'm a college student. Like, there's no other two. Just like, number one, I'm a college student. I'm not supposed to have nice furniture.
It's illegal.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I'm just thinking, it's like, you know, like all the abuse, all the moves it took and everything. It's like, no, like also, I think maybe if a number 2, if anything, it was like, well, this stuff was given to me from parents, so I didn't pay anything for it. So, you know, whenever I have to go out and get my own furniture, which I like upgraded my furniture, I should say, because it was still given to me. I went out, I paid for it myself, all that stuff. But in the interim, it's like, no. When you're in college, you can have a rough car, you can have all this other, you know, stuff that has issues. It's fine.
Yeah. And I did go back and look at my calendar. For some reason, my move out date isn't on my calendar, but I do see where I got the self storage. Gotcha. So yeah, it was actually the end of June.
Okay.
And I actually see my home inspection was early July. So I actually guess I did have my house lined up when I...
Okay. So it looks like you had the house lined up, but then I just got it iffy then. Because I always thought, this whole time, I always thought it was end of July, not end of June.
Yeah, no, it was end of June.
Oh, you're way over.
Yeah, sorry, I should have. Sorry, I had to fill up my tea, and the kettle's on the other end of the room.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I should have waited for a better pause for that. What was I saying? Yeah, no, I got the self storage at the end of June, so it was definitely beginning of July that I started living there. I also have your pest inspections and stuff on the calendar, which...
Oh, yeah, because we had to say, like, hey, just don't be here when this happens.
Yeah, basically. We probably went in there and they were like, what the heck?
Yeah, you know, amazingly, I never... That's the thing, yeah. I never, ever got any complaints from them. But I'm shocked that, like, the people who went in did a pest inspection and saw, like, nobody was there, but it was just... Well, at the same time, maybe it was just like, oh, this looks really lived in, but maybe this is just, like, ultra mega storage or something.
Yeah, it's probably not that atypical for them. They were probably just happy that it wasn't completely disgusting, because I'm sure some of those college apartments are just atrocious.
Oh, no doubt.
Just full of like bugs and stuff. Which is why they have the monthly pest inspections, so you don't ruin their building.
Yeah, I have to say I really didn't have any issues when I was there, thankfully. So
yeah,
they did a good job.
They were pretty aggressive about it. But
yeah. Speaking of, I was gonna say we had talked about some floods and such here. I did want to talk about this, but this will be like, I guess this will be the only time I'm hoping this will be the only time I talk about it. I had mentioned this on Twitter and YouTube in the community section, because I said, hey, this might be slowing me down a little bit and everything, but my basement ended up flooding here. So this is current day 2019, and David was an absolute champ with helping me out here, because you pretty much took about a week of your time to help me out and get this all resituated and such. But in short, for anyone that doesn't know, it was Labor Day weekend. That was it. And it was...
Yeah, lots of labor on Labor Day.
Yeah. I got no relaxing done on there. But yeah, it was Sunday evening. And I remember it was like earlier that Sunday, I came back, it was like 4 p.m. I had been down there and it was fine. And then a few hours later, it was around like 7:30 or something. I told my girlfriend, I said, hey, I'm going to go downstairs. I'm going to play some games. Now, mind you,
Astral Chain.
Yes. Mind you, I've never spoken about this one either, but this was like at the beginning of summer. I have a window that is completely useless in the basement, and I mean it as in it is underneath a deck. Even if you have to break it out in an emergency, you cannot go anywhere. Like, it is a completely...
It's not an egress window. You can't get up there anyway.
Yeah, you can't get up there. You can't do anything with it, unfortunately. So that window had leaked at one point during a really bad storm earlier in the summer, and my girlfriend's family and we ended up, kind of getting a bunch of stuff cleaned up, patching it up a decent amount there. And I'll come back to that. But mind you, with this big one, I start going downstairs. I get off the stairs, touch the floor of my basement. My foot is soaked. And I'm like, what the hell? So I immediately look at the sump pump. Everything is fine there. And then I hear water, and it was like PTSD, because it's just the sound of water I was hearing, it was the same sound of water that I had heard a few months prior when the window leaked. So I immediately go over there. It's not there. And then I start going into my storage area in my basement. And I have this little area in the corner where I had like all my electronics, my spare overflow systems and all that. And there is a pipe that is leaking directly above all of them, coming down onto everything. And I was immediately freaking out and panicking. And thankfully, from the last time you showed up, you had showed me how to turn off the water supply.
Yeah, it was literally... I think it was the weekend before. It wasn't a weekend. It was like 2
It was 2 weeks
ago.
I want to say. Yeah,
it was 2 weeks. Actually, I know for sure it was 2 weeks.
Yeah.
2 weeks ago. Oh, because your toilet was running. I was like, do you know how to turn off your water in case you ever had something? And you were like, nope.
Yep.
I was like, we're going to go learn.
And thank you for that as well, too. But yeah, what happened was it was just my girlfriend, myself, and my dog at the house. And I start yelling to my girlfriend. I'm like, water, there's water down here. And she sees, so I go over, I turned off the water supply. Thankfully, that stopped it. And then I remember I started calling around to plumbers, and then I called up David about it. And you're talking with me about this, and at one point you even said, you're just like, do you need me to come up there and help you out? And I said, I was like, I did hesitate, but I was like, only if you can, I would not at all be opposed to it, but can you get everything situated, like with your dog and such? And thankfully you did, but in short, David ends up driving like in the middle of the night, because by the time you got here, it was like 11 or so.
Yeah, I think it was 11. That sounds right.
Yeah, it was 11. At that point, I did end up calling up a plumbing company. They came out. They ended up fixing up the valve and replacing it. And then we also had somebody there he was also from the plumbing company, and he was just checking out insurance inspection stuff and everything. And it was funny because it's like he was pretty much telling me about the service that, we'd pay for if we went through insurance on there, of going through, removing damaged stuff like carpet and everything, and replacing stuff as need be. And then you arrived with all of your stuff. You had like fans, like your family helped you out with that as well too, but you had fans, you pretty much had your own operation going on. And
well, so for a little bit of context, the reason I would have brought all of my own stuff, but I had my dad bring a bunch of stuff because my dad lives near Danny. I don't live near Danny. It was like a 2-hour drive. Mm-hmm. The reason I didn't have my stuff is because another friend of ours had his basement flood, so all of my equipment was at his house. Like 2 nights before, right? Yeah, it was literally the Friday before. So I had like come off of tearing out, how big is his basement? His basement's probably 2,000 square feet. Mm-hmm. So tearing out 2,000 square feet of carpet and lugging it up, so I was already pretty sore too. But yeah, no, so luckily, I have all this equipment because I grew up in a DIY handy household. Mm-hmm. So my dad also had all of this equipment. It's nothing crazy. It's like a shop vac, some fans. My dad has one of those nice like fans that are specifically for blowing on the floor. Got his dehumidifier. Yeah, anyone who listens to your podcast who owns a home, buy a shop vac. Don't buy a shop vac brand shop vac. Buy a wet dry vac. Okay. Ryobi's a good brand. Go to Home Depot. Do it today. I don't care. It's like not that expensive. And your normal little piddly vacuum that you use to vacuum up cat fur can't deal with water. These ones can.
That's true. They're not that
expensive. True. If you ever have water issues, you need one. They have little like baby size ones, which you have a baby size one.
Yeah.
Personally, I'd rather have one that's like, I don't know how big it is. Just a bigger one. It looks like a big canister vacuum.
Sure.
And to make sure the pipe is big. That's the big thing. You want a big, wide pipe.
So you can actually suck up everything properly.
Yeah. Well, because so the reason I hated on the shop vac brand, because the wet dry vacuums have kind of genericized as shop vac, which is a specific brand. Mm-hmm. Menards sells shop vac. I think they might be the only people who sell shop vac. Mm-hmm. Killian bought one when his sump pump was having issues. And it was just so bad. It was bad enough that I drove the 15 minutes from his house to go get mine and come back so that we could use mine instead, because I was so infuriated with him. And mine's not like super high end. Killian's new one actually got like a real nice Ryobi one. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it's the top of the line one, but it was probably like $150.
Gotcha. I need to pick up one.
They
of those,
come much
honestly.
cheaper than that, but like even my little like kind of like entry level ish one, like it did the job so much better than the shop vac, and I think the shop vac cost more. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's my micro ramble. Mm-hmm. No. Oh, and then actually on the note of why you should own the wet dry vac ahead of time. Water damage is always like the longer you let it sit there, the more damage it's going to do.
That is true.
The faster you deal with it, the faster it's not going to be a problem. And you don't necessarily have time to wait for the pros. And even then, the pros aren't going to... There's nothing complicated about like the cleanup of basements. Unless it's so bad that there's like a foot of standing water, or the water is like flood water where it's really gross and like you're definitely losing the drywall.
Yeah, ours was thankfully
that's more
clean
complicated.
Water. It wasn't the dirty, nasty water.
Which even that's not hard. I wouldn't want to, tearing off drywall, you can go watch a YouTube video of how to like cut the bottom like 2 feet of drywall and tear it all off without having to tear off all of it. But like tearing up the carpet, it's really easy. Just take a box cutter, beefy one, not one of the break off ones. You want the ones with solid blades, and just cut cut pretty deep into the carpet, and you just pull on it, and it'll just come right up.
Yeah, and we ended up doing that because essentially we had what is it like with all that going on. So backing up a little bit with the plumbers and such, after it was fixed, and I talked with the damages related guy. It was funny because you came all ready to go with all that stuff, and I was asking, I was like, hey, if we start doing this, if we're moving stuff, what can we do? Blah blah blah. And for him, he's thinking insurance terms, and he was trying to nicely tell us, don't do anything, wait for us to do it.
Well, yeah, I mean, he was basically trying to get you to spend as much money as he could as quickly as possible, so that way it hit insurance and you just kept spending money without thinking about it, and they got a bunch of money out of it.
Exactly.
But I was actually pretty uncomfortable with how aggressively he was trying to get you to spend money.
You know what? Maybe that's why Lily didn't like him, because we also found out through this endeavor, unfortunately, Lily does not like bald people.
Yeah.
Yeah, this dude, it was because there were two people that were there. The regular, like the plumber guy, she was cool with, until at one point he was in the house by himself. And he walked past Lily's crate, and she just started going ballistic on him. But no, this dude, the insurance adjuster guy, every time she saw him or sensed him, she was growling and barking at him every single time. Yeah, she hated this. I didn't
like him either.
I thought he was nice, but
he was okay. I don't know. I didn't. Well, you might not have even picked up on it because you were traumatized by the $500 bill. But the actual plumber guy, he did not like me.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, I came in. He saw me lugging in a shop vac and a dehumidifier and everything, and I think he just smelled the DIY on me, and he made some rude remark about wannabe plumbers, and went on this little tirade about how he'd spent so much time learning all the stuff he did. I'm like I was polite. I didn't say anything, but I was like, bruh, you replaced a clamp-on valve. That's not hard.
I didn't pick up. No, I didn't know about any. That probably happened while I was out of the room or something. Then
no, you were there. I think you might have been looking over the bill or something when he said it.
Probably.
So you probably tuned it out. But I was just like, okay, dude. Sorry. You cut out an old piece of pipe, you stuck a new one in, you blast it with a torch, and you put a new valve on it. You did a good job. You came out and helped Danny in a really short period of time, but I'm sorry, your $400 of labor for what was 15 minutes of work is not super justified in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, if you had been able to convey to me what had happened, then we could have done it for way cheaper. But
but I
know you wanted to do something.
Yes,
sooner.
At least we didn't have to worry about fixing anything at that point. At that point, when you came, it was just getting things dry and getting things removed.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was like that got repaired, and then we had talked about that, of course. But then once the plumbers ended up leaving, David and I worked throughout the night to just get everything upstairs, and then we ended up gutting the carpet, and my girlfriend was helping out too. And then we ended up even spawning the meme out of it, which... what the hell was it? You're laughing.
It's a knife.
Yes, yeah, no, because Lily was downstairs, and David was like, hey, Danny, okay, we're getting rid of the carpet. Are you sure? And I was like, yep, let's do it. And then you just slice through it. You're like, all right, that's it. There's no turning back. It's gone. We can't go back anymore. And at one point, Lily was really excited to see what was going on and went directly up to David, and he just pushed her away. Was like, puppy, no, that's a knife. And I just thought that was hilarious in the midst of everything.
I mean, to a dog, I have this weird stick that I'm dragging on the ground, and it's making the ground roll up. Mm-hmm. She wanted to see what was going on, but it's like, you don't want to put your sniffer on this thing, dog. It's sharp.
Exactly. So, yeah, we had to move a lot of stuff upstairs and move stuff all around the basement. Got rid of all of that, all the carpet, all the padding and everything, because it was just completely soaked. Mm. And then... at that point, we worked on drying up electronics and all that stuff. And to anybody who might be wondering, games were thankfully okay. And David, I haven't told you about this. All the electronics
Yeah.
have thankfully been fine.
Everything you've tested?
I didn't test everything, but it was stuff. It was a lot of stuff that I just let dry out and such. The only thing I did run into, which this was my own fault, I had this Japanese N64. Like, I had bought it from a local shop a few years ago, and it was still in like the Saran wrap and everything. My own fault on this, but I remember I looked at it and I was like, oh, well, the Saran wrap's on here, it's fine. And I put it out
Water get in
for like 2 weeks, and water got in. And I didn't notice this until about a week ago, and I was about to toss it, and I was like, no, let's see what the damage is. I haven't turned it on yet, but I did take, because from what I remember, I've taken apart a few N64s. Those things are built like tanks.
Yeah.
And I took the whole thing apart, and there was, like, on the shielding, there is a little bit of rust. And then on the main board itself, on the edges, there's some rust there, but the actual console itself is not affected. It's just kind of gross because the system was not in a clean household prior, and then it got water inside of it. But I took
it's pushing all the crap
Yeah,
away.
yeah. So I took it completely apart. I let it sit out. It's been drying for at least a week, which should be fine. But really, all I need to do, I'm quite confident that it's going to work. I just need to actually clean it because, again, it's kind of grimy and it's had, stuff all over it and some rust marks, which should be fine. But I just need to clean it up, put it back together once it's dry, and I'm completely confident it should work. So if anything, I might have lost an N64, but it doesn't look like it. But like some of the systems that were hit with water, once they dried out and everything, I have been able to utilize them just fine. Yeah, there was none of the main systems I used. So like my PS4 Pro, Xbox One, my Switch, all that stuff was thankfully completely untouched.
Yeah. People really don't give electronics enough credit. The thing is that powered off electronics don't really care about water. It's
That's
the powered
true.
on stuff that cares.
Yeah.
Like, you'll let it dry out, it'll probably be fine. The biggest issue you run into, and what people are usually used to suffering through water, is like cell phones. That cell phones are so sealed that the water, once it gets in, doesn't really have a good way to get out. And the batteries are sealed in most phones these days, so you can't take the battery out to depower the phone completely.
Yep.
But like, for instance, well, I'm not sure if that counts that much, but yeah, I don't know. Most people seem to not touch stuff. Like, there's always like, oh, put it in rice. Like, yeah, the rice draws out some of it, but really the rice is just getting you to stop touching the phone. Don't touch the console. Don't touch the controller. Don't touch the phone. Don't touch your mom's vibrator. Just let it dry out.
You and I have talked a lot about this at length. Not the mom's vibrator thing, but we've talked about, the phone and rice thing before. And yeah, like you and I, we've talked about it, and we've said, it's like, honestly, the best thing, if something electronic gets wet, the best thing you can do is rip it apart completely as much as you can and don't touch it for several days.
Yep, run air over it.
Yeah. The next best thing is put it out somewhere, let it dry out, don't touch it for a while. But like, as you said with the rice thing, it's like, and I've heard this not just from you, but from other people, when you dunk something in rice, it's more the fact that you're not touching it or utilizing it that's going to help it. It might help a tiny bit with moisture, but the bigger issue you're going to run into is the particles of grain that are all over the place at that point. That's going to, you're in one way, you're switching out one issue for another. So like, even when some people say, oh, I took my phone that was
I'll be right back really quick. Nobody doesn't normally bark that much.
All right, you got your dog taken care of?
Yeah, I'm not sure what her deal was.
Okay.
She's real concerned to kiss about something. Probably.
Yeah, because I was hearing
outside.
Nova bark, and I thought it was Lily at first. I was like, wait, no, because I'm using headphones right now. I was like, that's not coming from the house. That's coming from your audio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't know about that. Well, I heard a little bit of noise earlier, so she got worked up about something and then just kept getting worked up, I guess. But, yeah, I don't know. She, I thought she was just making noise in her sleep originally, but she got really loud.
She does full straight up barking in her sleep, really?
No, she does no. This is, you probably couldn't hear this. She does this little, like, kind of like little half puppy bark thing when she's asleep and having certain dreams.
Oh, that's cute. Lily's only done that once.
Oh, really? Noah does it pretty frequently.
Yeah. See, that's the dream.
Yeah, she's a pretty active sleeper. I'll have her like sleeping in my lap or whatever, and she just like starts like kind of grinding her teeth and like chewing on stuff that's not there. I'm like, what are you doing, dog?
Yeah, thankfully Lily does
It's
not
really
do
weird.
that.
It's not like she's not opening her mouth, so she's not like chewing on anything around her, but it's just weird.
No, I understand.
Anyway.
Dogs can be weird at times, man.
Dude, dogs just are weird. Not even at times.
They are, but it's so great.
It is pretty great.
Anyways,
okay, where were we?
Something about the house and cutting up. The last thing I remember was cutting up all the carpet and such. The other thing was that I wanted to bring up with that night where
Oh,
we
it was
worked
wet
until
consoles. You're talking about the N64.
Yes.
People being
Yeah,
bad with rice.
Yeah, so that's okay, now I remember. Yeah, thank you for that. So, no, in regards to that, like we were talking about, people just like I think the last thing I was going to say was, a lot of people have said, "Oh, well, I put my phone in rice after it got wet and it was fine after a few days." And it's like, well, you probably also didn't power it on, which, as I know from you, from other people, from research and such, when electronics get wet, if they are on, you want to power them off immediately. If they're off, you don't want to turn them on for days on end.
Yeah.
So it's like, you put it somewhere where you were not able to access it yourself, and then it was fine.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, people's lives revolve around their phones a lot, so I get the desire to try and touch it as soon as possible, but if you can't afford to replace it, you really should just let it sit for at least a week. If you are so important that you need to have access to your phone, then sure, maybe
you should get a backup
maybe
phone.
try to use it, but like, yeah, maybe you should get a backup phone if you're that important. But I've actually been meaning to get, now that people are making flip phones again, well, I guess they never really stopped, but they're making like semi decent-ish flip phones now that can do like run Android or whatever.
Yeah.
I've kind of wanted to get one just to have as like my backup phone for like if anything ever happened to my iPhone, I could use it instead or something. Just seems like it'd be convenient. Biggest issue now though is that there's like 15 different size SIM cards and you'll never have the right one between two different phones.
Yeah, and especially if you're going to do such a big downgrade like that, you're going to need an adapter to most likely go to a bigger SIM card, which is fine. But
yeah, I've heard some mixed things about those adapters. I've made them and used them before, but
I was about to make one, and then I found out, I can go to my carrier and get one. Why am I doing this? So I've had to. I had like a regular SIM card, and then I had like a mini SIM card, and then I think a nano. I think those are the three that I've used.
Now they're doing the eSIMs. It's like CDMA called. It wants its technology back.
Oh, is eSIM just everything is just electronic on the system
It's
itself?
basically just a programmable SIM card that's embedded in the phone.
Okay.
Which is like, I'm not going to claim to be an expert on the cell phone authentication technologies, but I'm pretty sure CDMA has worked that way since the dawn of time. So it's just
I can't specifically speak to that in regards to CDMA. I've almost all my life I've had GSM based phones.
Yeah. But well, I mean, that's why CDMA phones don't have SIM cards, is they have their own little built-in thing. They don't use they don't use the same technology stack, so it's kind of not accurate to say that they have embedded SIM cards. But
and then I don't know if this is 100% correct, but I've at least seen that, like, let's say an iPhone, for example, if an iPhone's on Verizon, which is obviously CDMA, and if you unlock a Verizon iPhone, I have been told that once you unlock it, you essentially convert the phone to GSM, so you cannot ever use it on a CDMA-based line. You have to just use GSM.
I'm not sure if that's still accurate.
I don't know either. I was finding conflicting reports on it, and there was a friend of mine who he was wanting to buy like a somewhat cheap Verizon iPhone and unlock it for AT&T, and I gave him that heads up. I said, look, I can't verify this 100%, but based on my research that I've done here, this could be an issue. It's your choice if you want to spend $300 and take that risk.
Yeah, I don't think that's a thing with any modern phones anymore. Back in the day, there always used to be a GSM version and a CDMA version of all the phones.
Yeah.
And you would run into, like, you can't really unlock one phone to the other because it's just physically different hardware. And I would be surprised
again,
if
you've got,
for
like,
a while the CDMA carriers wouldn't let you program an unlocked phone in the first place.
Yeah, but then, as I said, like, now it's like you get, like, Verizon, like an iPhone on Verizon, for example, where even though Verizon's CDMA, it still has a SIM card slot in there.
Yeah. Honestly, it still kind of shocks me that unlocked phones are a thing in the United States. I'm glad that they are, because I don't want to buy a phone through my carrier ever. But like, I don't know, just most people aren't using them. The people who are enthusiasts and are probably creating a pretty large burden. But maybe I'm underestimating the number of people buying used phones, and that's keeping that going.
I feel like people are a lot more aware of unlocked phones now.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I just feel like even people who know about them, I don't know, people get their phones on lease too much from carriers.
Because nobody wants to buy like a $1,200 phone, but you can pay
is
$30 a month over the course of, I don't know, 2-3 years for it.
Yeah, but the problem is that like our phones cost $1,200 in the U.S. because people are so used to hiding the costs in their cell phone bill.
Exactly.
Like a lot of phones are cheaper in Europe purely because of
I haven't looked at the price comparisons on that. But that doesn't really
I'll admit that it's been a long time since I've looked into it, but so maybe that's not true anymore, but from what I remember last time I was really looking into it, everything was always cheaper over there because people buy their phones outright and they don't want to pay the super premium American. It's kind of like health insurance. Like the hospitals in the US charge a lot more because they know you're hiding everything, all the costs of everything in insurance. There's not really any regulations telling them not to.
And that's how a box of tissues costs like $45.
Yeah, it's like, this is medical grade Advil. It costs, $500 a pill. It's like, no, it didn't. Like, it's like, oh, well, this one has the special, like, FDA certification. It's like, what? Even if that's true, that's such a stupid reason for it to cost 30 times as much. If not more. But obviously, like, all pills are FDA certified. Well, not all of them, but a lot of them. Stuff like that is always FDA certified. But,
sure.
I was referring more to, like, when you hear about someone, like, you get the Band-Aid at the hospital. It's a Band-Aid brand Band-Aid that comes in a special box that says it's for hospital use.
Thankfully, I haven't spent a whole lot of time in hospitals. Like, thankfully, so I haven't really seen that all too much.
As you know.
Yeah.
Abolish healthcare.
Yeah. No, going back to the basement flood though. So again, we had worked all night on getting all that stuff moved out. One thing I wanted to bring up as well too was before we got started. So this is between starting to move everything out with you, myself, and my girlfriend, and then the plumbers leaving. We were hungry. So we decided to go to Taco Bell, and that was so what time was it? Was that like 11:30 at that point?
It might have been closer to midnight. I think we worked for a while after the plumbers left.
We did.
We were like, oh yeah, food exists.
No. I remember because I was hungry. Like,
was it right away? Maybe it was right away.
It was pretty right away.
I think we talked about our game plan a little bit, and then we went to get food.
That's it. So I remember we ended up going there, and it was like It was the worst Taco Bell experience because first of all, okay, you don't go there for the experience. You have to go in there, like kind of level setting what you're going to be getting. But I'll put it like this, like people there were obviously high. Everything was real slow. And then I got 3 tacos and I kind of did the keto thing and just took all the stuff out of the shells and ate that separately, which is fine. But, it's not hard to mess up a taco. But when they had 3 chances and every single taco had David, it wasn't just like a little bit. I think you tried to downplay.
No, I saw it. It was bad.
Each of my tacos on the outside had a glob of sour cream that were just like pasted onto them, and I'm like, how the fuck is this happening? Your food, I don't remember what you got, but your food was completely falling apart. My girlfriend's food was completely falling apart as well. Like they couldn't put anything together right.
Yeah, it's I don't know, Taco Bell. I mean, I hadn't been to Taco Bell in ages anyway. I had Taco Bell twice when I was there. Yeah. But I just don't eat out ever. And if I'm going to go eat out, I'm going to go to like Chipotle or Chick-fil-A. Something that feels more worth the money.
You said since we had a couple times here, do you remember the kind of like the meth head lady we saw the second time we went?
I do remember the very ragged old lady that you keep calling a meth head, yes.
Dude, because she was itching and like kind of twitching and everything, and just like all the photos that you saw in, I'm just saying, all the photos you saw in school of this is what happens when you're on meth. Like she was fitting those super well.
That is definitely true.
Yeah.
I will not dispute that.
So tangent here. The reason why I'm bringing this up with such importance is because at one point we were going, as we were getting all the stuff situated. Let me fast forward here a little bit. We got everything moved out. We started cleaning up the consoles, all that other stuff, doing what we could, setting them out. We slept. We got back up later. The game plan then was, as per, like, you would kind of toss us out as an idea. You said, hey, dude, you might not want to do carpet again. I said, executive decision, we're not doing carpet anymore. So we ended up doing some vinyl. And vinyl planks, exactly. So we end up like finding a color that worked. We end up buying it. We got the tools we need to set up. We had to let it sit in the basement for a couple of days. But in the midst of all that, at one point, I think this is when we were getting the siding. Like, so we had laid down the floor. We were just getting the siding and stuff.
Oh, the quarter round?
Yes. We had gone, so now fast forwarding throughout the week, because I took off, by the way, just to let people know, I took off work for this as well, too. I just want all this shit done. Because the thing is, not only we saved some money, like, I guess I didn't go through insurance because I canceled my claim, but if I had gone through insurance, I probably would have lost a lot more and probably paid a little less, but maybe over time, if my premium went up, it would have been fine. But I paid David. I felt like a good amount for your work.
Yeah.
I paid you in a bunch of games as well, too, because I had a bunch of doubles that I went through, and I was like, here,
I need to buy a new shelf now.
Dude, you took 2 bags full of games. I was proud.
I'm glad that you we're okay with that.
Yeah, no, it was all good. Well,
I grabbed the games that I thought were interesting. I was like, hey, Danny, there's all these consoles I never owned. What are like some must-haves from these?
David's
and
never
then you were
owned,
just like,
David's never owned a PS2. So the next time I see you,
anything.
I got to get you a PS2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why I never got a PS2 out of nostalgia, because my best friend, like, elementary school had a PS2, so, like, that's where all my exposure to the PS2 was. But really, we only played, like, one of the Jak and Daxter's games, because it was basically Grand Theft Auto. I don't remember which one it was. I'm sure
it was probably Jak 2.
Maybe.
Because the first Jak and Daxter was not Grand Theft Auto based at all. It was Jak 2 was the one that was described as being like Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah, this cover looks familiar.
Yeah, that was a great game.
Yeah, it was super fun. But it was like Grand Theft Auto, except it was rated T for teens, so our parents didn't make us not play it.
Exactly.
Because we were allowed to play T-rated games, but M-rated games...
Those were
the devil. I don't think... My parents might have never let me buy a M-rated... Or they let me buy M-rated games once I hit, like, high school, but they wouldn't buy them for me.
Yeah, I think I think from what you've told me before, you said even for some M-rated games, you had to have your friends buy them for you. And then once you turned 17, it was very much a thing of, you can buy these, but we're not going to buy any M-rated games for you.
Yeah, well, yeah. It was younger than 17 where I was allowed to buy them, but they wouldn't buy them for me.
Okay.
I don't remember exactly when that was. It might have just been that my parents realized that I had friends who had credit cards now, so I was getting them no matter what, so they might as well just be like, we're not going to buy them for you. But the only reason, actually, I think the only reason I knew that they wouldn't buy them for me is my brother tried to get... Was it Dragon Age Origins? Is that a game that exists?
It is. Yeah, it's an M-rated game that exists.
Is it old enough for that to make sense timeline-wise?
Yes, it did come out.
Yeah, it is.
Because we were in the same graduating year, so yeah, it came out when we were in high school.
Yeah, so Kernath wanted that, and he asked for it for, like, Christmas or something. And they wouldn't get it for him because it was M-rated, which... I mean, he's a big dum-dum. He knew that they didn't really like M-rated games that much, and it's rated M for... I have it up right here on Steam. Partial nudity and sexual content.
Oh, that's the devil.
Think the traditional Christian parents, God-fearing parents like that. It's a hard no. They were okay with the blood and violence and language, but you see some titty, you're going straight to hell.
Yep. Gotta love parent logic on that, but oh well. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to question it. I'm glad that we got access to our supposedly violent games. You know, surprisingly, I do not have an uncontrollable rage to go and shoot up a mall or something.
Yeah. Yeah. I know, kind of side tangent here, but I've talked with friends who like they grew up pirating. Even I myself, like I was, pirating games here and there and such. And it was one of my friends had told me a story of like when he was younger. He was like maybe like 12 or something when he had first flashed his Xbox 360's disk drive, and it was funny because like his parents. They gave him the TV. They bought him the Xbox. They bought him all the weird tools he needed. They bought him the computer. They bought him the blank discs. But they said he could absolutely positively not play Modern Warfare 2, and they were not going to buy it for him, and he was not allowed to play it because it was so violent. So it leaked out online at one point. He flashed his disk drive. He downloaded a copy of the game, burned it over, and at one point his parents found out, and they were like, how the hell are you playing this game? We told you that you couldn't buy it. And he's like, you did tell me that, but you all bought the console and the computer and the internet and the blank discs that I burned this game to.
It's a bold move right there. It's a good
yeah,
way to
and at that point they were just like, okay, you outsmarted us, fine, keep your violent game. We don't care anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, no. Kind of going back to this. So in the midst of it, we were coming back from Home Depot, and we stopped at a Taco Bell, and you picked up on this.
The story is all over the place.
You picked up on this more than I did, but I remember you and I, we were looking to see what we were going to get, and there was this dad and his, I don't know, maybe like 6-7-year-old girl, and
yeah, his
then,
daughter.
As I said, like I'll use better term, the questionable woman ended up coming around with one of her superiors, who I'm pretty sure was her manager, and she looks dead on at this little girl and points at her and screams, don't you ever touch that thing! Yeah, that. Like, with that scary voice and everything. So we turn around, and what was the girl doing?
I'm the Wicked Witch of the West!
Pretty much. Sorry. She was very witchly. But this girl was touching a kiosk. Like, there's some Taco Bells now, they have a kiosk where you could just order everything there. And David, you had picked up on it, where you said it's like the kiosks are putting people out of jobs. So that's why she was saying that.
It's like the self-checkout of fast food, basically.
Yeah, I think it's convenient. Either way, what happened was the manager was immediately like, hey, you can't be doing that. We told you about that. We're so sorry. We're so sorry about that. No, honey, you can touch that. It's fine. You can. It's okay. She didn't mean that. You cannot be talking to people like that. That is a child.
And the manager chewed her out in the back room. This was
and then the lady ended up coming back over when we were finished ordering, and then when the next people, like the dad and his daughter, were ordering, and then I think it was the assistant manager who also told her, she was like, you can't be doing that. We told you can't be doing that. Yeah. No,
I can understand the frustration. Personally, I think those
she came out screaming at that small child.
No, it was the wrong reaction for sure. Personally, I think those weird like self-checkout placed immediately across from the cashiers and the fast food places are a little weird. I can see them being nice maybe if the place is really busy. I used one at Panera Bread, but those ones, they actually put them not immediately across from the cashier, which I think is a little bit more tactful. All the ones I've seen in the fast food places, they always seem to like put them facing like the screen is facing towards the cashier. So
so just making fun of you.
It just kind of like seems unnecessarily mean. It makes it too obvious that you're going and using this thing instead of talking to them.
Sure.
It'd be like if the self-checkout lines at like Walmart and Target and stuff were like sharing space with the normal cashier lines, or it was just like very obvious you're going there because you don't want to deal with interacting with a human right now. Or in my case, I want to make sure that there's not very many bags being used because I don't want to take multiple trips out to my car. But yeah, no. So also, I don't want to be asked about red rewards card or whatever they're called.
I understand. So that just happened there, but in short, what we did afterwards was we got the floor installed the next day, we got all the siding, and then we started getting, the big stuff moved back in. And then aside from that, it was really just kind of clean up, and then all the game stuff was on my own. So again, that took about a week.
We got the furniture down and organized.
Yeah, and the thing with that, the big thing that helped with everything as well too, is that like with spending a little more, is that not only I wasn't going through insurance on that, because David was telling me here that yeah, if you put a claim on there, your insurance could go up for an undisclosed amount of time, but on
Yeah,
top of
yeah, and
that,
you asked explicitly, and
and
they wouldn't
they
give you a straight answer.
they gave me the best non-answer they could.
Yeah, which
Yeah.
the phone guy was just doing his job, but man,
Sure.
it's so annoying. Like,
Sure.
because that there is like a very strict like internal procedure of determining whether your premiums will go up and how much they go up. I almost wonder if maybe it's a legal thing where they don't want to say one way or the other.
I think it's probably that they don't want to be liable on that and say, well, you
Well,
said this.
I'm wondering if it's maybe there's like regulations saying like you can't have like like premiums go up in response to claims, which like every insurance does ever, but yeah, it's kind of they need to say like, well, we reevaluated your risk and we increased your premiums, rather than saying we're increasing your premiums because you used the service you've been paying for the past X years.
Because you fucked up.
Yeah.
Something like that. But yeah, we the main takeaway for me on that was like there was a lot of I got to flip my schedule all around and not sleep and do a bunch of other stuff and find out that that I don't drink energy drinks that much anymore, but the energy drink Bang makes my stomach hurt. Never tried it. Yeah, dude, I told you, because you remember like we had one, we split one, and I was kind of lagging a little bit, and I told you I was like, no, I just don't feel good.
I don't actually. I guess maybe I didn't know that you were attributing it to the Bang though.
No, I guess maybe I didn't say it out loud, but yeah, no, it was, I drank that Bang, and then shortly after, for like the next like hour or two, my stomach just kind of slightly hurt, and then it cleared, thankfully. It did energize me, but I also I didn't feel good. But no, just in regards to this here, we got all that done within a week, and by that I mean, from disaster, getting it repaired, getting everything removed, dried up, laying down new floor, finalizing it, and putting the stuff where it needed to go. That took a week, and going through all the proper channels and such, it would have taken much longer to do all that, to get it all cleaned, and I probably would have lost a lot more, because again, I really didn't lose anything of value, thank goodness.
Well, and like, for all the stuff they wanted you to pay for, like, you had paid them to rip up the carpet and lug it up, and like, I don't know, what'd that take us? Probably 45 minutes, maybe an hour to get all your carpet up.
It really didn't take that long.
It's not skilled, it's not hard.
And then on top of that as well, you got to realize we did that immediately, like a few hours after like everything struck. But they would have had, because that was Sunday evening, and then it was into Monday we were working. By earliest, we could have had someone doing that on Tuesday, maybe Wednesday, and the longer you leave all that stuff down there, wet and disgusting, the more damage it's going to do to everything.
Yeah, and then they were going to carry up the furniture, like, that wasn't that hard, like, at all, like, your girlfriend was taking shelves up.
Yes.
Like, it's like, and she's not like a bodybuilder or anything. Like it's easy stuff to do, and like we saved all of the furniture because we did everything quickly, and like they were gonna spray their nonsense stuff everywhere, which I'm sure maybe could have been more important if it was bigger. Although when I was looking up that antimicrobial spray for mold, I'm convinced that it doesn't really do anything.
Okay.
But the thing is that like if you have enough mold that it's a problem, then you need to remove the mold and not spray it with something. Like you need to remove the drywall.
And I remember you and I, we talked about
and they were
going to
tear off all your molding. Your molding was fine. Your molding's real wood, so it didn't even take on any water.
Yep.
And that just would have been another thing. And then you would have had to repaint the drywall too, which would have been another expense. And, they weren't going to do the floor install, obviously. So then you would have had that separate thing. And the floor installers have been like, oh, well, we don't do molding. And then you would have to pay some contract for that. And it's just,
yeah.
So many moving parts and like they would have created a bunch of work that you had to pay for that you wouldn't have had to otherwise.
Yeah, I was going to say that, Pat the NES Punk on one of his I think I want to say it was on CU podcast. He had talked about his water tank going out on there, and he essentially said, he went through the insurance to get that replaced. And let's say, I just want to put a number on it. Let's say he paid $600 out of pocket to get it all resolved, and essentially he went in and looked up everything, and he saw that he would have been paying the same amount to do the stuff probably himself and do everything independently, as opposed to going through his insurance and doing it, because the insurance had to essentially kind of skirt around it and make and create other work, I guess, for lack of a better term, to get him to pay that same amount of money out of his own pocket. So he was like, when I looked at it, I actually really didn't save anything out of pocket. I spent the exact same money I would have filing the insurance claim and going through insurance, as opposed to doing this all independently.
Well, and a lot of this stuff too, like it like seems daunting. So it's like, oh man, there's this whole industry around doing this stuff, but like a lot of this stuff just isn't hard. And there's so much stuff on YouTube now. Like my grandmother, she turned 80 this year, if I remember right. Sorry if I got that wrong, Grandma. But I'm pretty sure she turned 80 this year. She and her son, who isn't particularly handy, sorry, Uncle Rick. At least I don't think he is. Maybe he's more handy than I give him credit for, but I don't think I would not, like, knowing him, it's not something I would, like, it's not an adjective I'd put on him. But anyway, like my grandma and my uncle, who doesn't do this stuff all that often, replaced her water heater tank, alone with no help, just like by watching YouTube videos and just, I think they might have called my dad and gotten a little bit of advice at some point, but like it's not hard. Like, and her water tank is like up on a pedestal too, so like I think that's the only reason that she wanted my uncle's help, was because you have to get this giant heavy tank up onto this thing. It was fine. Like she didn't have to go through insurance. She didn't have to pay anything. I'm not sure why she knew she had to replace it. Maybe it wasn't heating up very well anymore, but
not so much with house stuff, but more with car stuff. I have felt better doing the YouTube thing on that. Because I tweeted about this a bit, but like, for example, I've done a few things to my girlfriend's car. The stereo install I already knew how to do, but you can do that online. Like, you can find plenty of guides on that online. There was, I had essentially refurbished her headlights, which I already knew how to do that as well too. But no, it was, I told you about this, and again, I posted it up online as well. But recently she ended up damaging her passenger side mirror. And it was funny because that same day, shout out to this guy, he has no idea who I am, but Scotty Kilmer, absolutely love his channel, super easy to binge watch his videos and such. You could just go down a rabbit hole of car knowledge and such through there. But I had watched a video he did about replacing a handle on a car. And he went through the process of, taking off the door panel and doing all this other stuff. And it looked pretty easy to do. And I was like, oh, this seems to be fine. And what happened? Then girlfriend hit me up and she said, hey, I ended up breaking this mirror on the side of my car. And I went online. Thankfully, she has an older car, so not only those older cars are like Legos when it comes to everything, but on top of that, that's the best way to describe it, but like they're like Legos, but on top of that, because they're so old and there's so many of them, it's really easy to find cheap, affordable, good parts for them. So I linked her something. I said, all right, this is what you can do. If you want, we can take it to a shop, we can have them replace it, paint it, put it on and everything. You can spend a few $100, or here's this Amazon link, spend $30, make sure it gets here. I can install it for you because it doesn't really look that hard, and it's going to stick out like a sore thumb. It's not going to match the rest of your car, but it's going to be $35. Yeah. And yeah, brand new, like whole assembly with the mirror, the glass, everything on there. And admittedly it took me longer than needed on there because I was going through, I watched like a video on actually how to do it a couple of times, and just going through the process of taking, the whole door frame off and such. And then I made sure the mirror was on there. And then I found out that this is a fun thing she's got a 1998, and apparently, so the 98 through the 2002 Accord, they use the same style. But on the 1999, they went from, on the 1998, you put in the mirror, and then you have to screw it in. But on the 99 to 2002, it's the opposite. These screws are already in the mirror, and you have to bolt them on. So I had to run to Home Depot. I spent $2 on nuts and washers, came back, and then I finished and just worked backwards. And again, it was like, took an hour and a half of my time, which even then it's like if I adjust that to professionally, yeah, I saved quite a bit. I've saved myself and her quite a bit of money just doing that all myself. So it's like $35 extremely well spent, because it's like, she paid like $34 for the mare, and then I just paid for the nuts and the washers.
Yeah, it's not hard. You learn a little bit each time. If you ever had to go into that door for something else, say like the electronic lock stops working or something, like,
or if I ever want to do a speaker upgrade, something that's, I guess that's more realistic for me.
Yeah, but like you know a lot more about what's going on there now, and next time you do something, it's gonna be a lot easier. Like, I do all my own work on my car, and like I'm starting to get a little like overly familiar with the engine. Oh man, I should know. It's the 1MZ something or other. Words. Where do I have my manual?
It's your engine.
Yeah, it's my engine, I guess. Yeah, unless you have a car person. I'm sure if there's a car person here, they're cringing that I don't know my engine model by heart. But like, I'm getting a little too familiar with how this thing is structured at this point, just from doing things, and I just kind of read stuff. In my opinion, the biggest barrier to entry on car maintenance stuff, especially if you don't have a car that's super common where you can just go find very specific videos about your car, is that the factory service manuals are always locked behind paywalls.
Yep.
Which is really upsetting. And sometimes those paywalls are very unobvious of how you can get to them. It's not obvious if you have to pay once. I know why the manufacturers have the paywalls, because they want the auto body shops to be spending a bunch of money on their subscriptions to get access to them. But I don't know. It's just such a mess, and I don't know. I would, if there were a car manufacturer who had them up for just out in the open, I'd feel a lot better. Because like, I've been debugging an issue in my car recently, where my airbag light's stuck on, and it's like only half on, which kind of implies that it's probably an electrical issue, not actually because the SRS system is having a fault, because there's no fault codes or anything. And like, I'm lucky enough to have access to my factory service manual. And I went in the wiring diagram and I found out where that light was, and I followed the wire through the wiring diagram to see where it's hooked up. And, I've been able to do some basic diagnostics. Unfortunately, this fault killed my battery, so I can't drive my car right now or start it to try and check other things. Which is one of the other reasons I'm trying to fix it, because I do have, my battery is definitely discharging faster than it should, and the battery's not very old. So that kind of implies that there's something funky going on. Really hope it's not the airbag controller, because I don't imagine that's cheap. But
for your sake,
unfortunately,
I also hope the best.
Yeah, unfortunately, when I was kind of looking at where it is in the car, which I have a nice diagram of my car showing where it is, or where everything is. Unfortunately, it's on the other side of the firewall from the O2 sensor I replaced. And I'm thinking, because it started having this issue pretty shortly after I replaced the O2 sensor, I'm thinking I had a tool bang against the firewall when I was loosening up something or something. And
because you replaced yours.
It maybe damaged a sensor, made it angry, or who knows. I would think that it would be a different fault condition for that, but anyway, I'm getting real off base here. But point is, like, I have access to this information, so it's way easier to work on my car. And like, there's the unofficial service manuals, like I think is it Hayes? Does Hayes make one? I think that's
I was gonna say, before we delve too far into the service manual searches and such,
Haynes,
here,
that's what I was thinking of.
Haynes does it?
Like, I have the Haynes one, and like, it's okay, but it's not nearly as detailed, and because it's a physical book, they have to like condense everything down real far, whereas like the wiring diagram for my car is this 583 page document. Like, it's Like you don't want the whole thing printed out. You just want to be able to Control F through it. But
it's really nice having those documents available directly to you.
Yeah. The engine immobilizer system.
I do want to move back to the basement though before we get too far off base here.
I don't even know how we ended up on car stuff.
We were talking about just like repairs and everything, and then I was the one who brought that up. But no, in regards to that, so this is also this is going to be the next project here. Or no, it's all good. Well, I can talk about this another episode. Point is, we got the basement redone and everything. David, thank you for taking your time out to do all that, because that was
no problem.
Absolutely great. Nice, and my knees hurt quite a bit from laying down all that floor.
They don't still hurt, right?
No, thankfully no. Oh,
they still hurt. You need to go to the doctor.
Yeah, there'd be a major medical issue, but I think you saw it was like that because we laid down the floor in one day, and then the next day at one point I got down on my knees, and my knees completely owned me.
It's rough when you're not used to doing that stuff all the time.
Yep.
Even if you do it all the time, I think you just get used to the pain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But
so. Yeah. The next thing I want to talk about, David, I'm not sure how much you followed this. I know I brought it up to you, but did you hear about the whole YouTube verification badge issue?
I did, only because you told me about it.
Yes.
Well, actually, that's not true. All the YouTubers I follow on Twitter started shrieking about it.
So for anybody who's listening to this now and you don't know about what I'm talking about, and I'd be actually a bit surprised, but some people just
especially since it's over now.
Yeah. Kinda. Well, it's just kind of the meta of YouTube. Some people might not follow it, but if you look at like my channel, for example, many channels that have a established branding of some kind, or they are a established figure, or it's a channel that is at least 100,000 subscribers in size, they have a little check mark next to them, and it's called a verification badge. And for example, mine just proves I am the one and only Mr. Mario 2011 on YouTube. Anybody else who tries to pass themselves off as Mr. Mario 2011, like with the exact same name and such, that is not the real one. That's a fake. I'm the real one. But it's also kind of it's almost looked at as like a badge of honor too, I guess, on the YouTube sphere, because on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, they all have verification badges and such. On those services, you have it's up to the company. You have to you used to be able to apply, but now at this point, I think Instagram you still can. But regardless, typically you have to hit some kind of not threshold, but you have to be some kind of certain figure, have some kind of notoriety, be known somehow. And at that point, the company then decides, hey, like I'm thinking like, let's say Nothing Nowhere, for example, one of my favorite artists. Once he's buzzing enough on Twitter, they'll say, hey, this guy is becoming a really well-known artist. He has so much interaction. He's becoming known off and on the platform. Let's go ahead and verify this account as his, so people know this is the official Nothing Nowhere account. And that's how that generally goes. But on YouTube, I would say, in a sense, because I'm not trying to downplay this and say it's easier by any means, but I would say because of that, it is the easiest one to get verified on, because there is a clearer threshold, which if you're not because for example, people really don't, it's not like I'm super famous all over the place and people just like instantly know me, but on YouTube, there is a tangible goal of, once I hit 100,000 subscribers, I get my verification badge. That's it. So YouTube, I want to say it was on Tuesday of this week, which this
sounds
is...
right.
Yeah, this is because we're recording this a few days before it comes out, but this was on September 17th. There was an email that went out to almost every single verified channel owner.
I don't even think it was almost. I think it was everyone.
No. There were two emails that went out. So if you got one like me, it essentially said that we're going to be making some changes to the way we handle verification badges, and you no longer qualify for your badge. If you think you should, or you think this is a mistake, please appeal using this form right here. We're not going to be making these changes until like late October, something like that. Meanwhile, the other email, which I obviously didn't get, it was a very small minority of people who did. They would get an email saying, we're changing the way verification badges are being changed and handed out and such. You are going to be keeping your verification badge, so you have nothing to worry about. So
I didn't hear about that.
not that many people got it. Is the thing.
Apparently.
There were, and even there was really no rhyme or reason as to how people got theirs and such. I saw like Yang Ya, for example. He had said he was kind of doing a little bit of a survey on his own, and he was saying that he thinks it's something between how frequently people are uploading and how many views they get, and view to sub ratio and all that stuff. But I even found exceptions to his, because he was saying, hey, I feel like if you're within this ratio, if your ratio is doing really well, you keep your badge. But if you're not, if you're under this for what your channel is, if you're technically underperforming, you don't get to keep your badge. But I saw many channels who were technically I saw many channels on the opposite sides of what his argument was, who were getting the opposite email. So there was that whole thing that was going on. I appealed. The appeal form was essentially, what is your username? What is your channel name? Are you being impersonated by anyone? If so, what are those channels that are impersonating? Do you have a unique brand or a unique branding of some kind that identifies you? And then, are you known off of the platform? And if so, please cite some scholarly or like newsworthy sources where you've been posted up on. And this is not a problem anymore, because there was nobody who was defending this. Everybody was against it. Every single person, it seemed like. And even I myself, I put out some justification, but I was still against it. And I wasn't really heated about it. I was more just confused, because to me, it felt like YouTube was creating they were creating a problem that didn't need to exist. Because they had said on Twitter that the reason why they're doing this is because they've talked with many users and creators who said that they were confused with what the verification badge meant. And they were confusing it for quality, like, hey, if you have this badge, this is a high quality channel, as opposed to being official. Like, this is the official Mr. Mario 2011 channel.
Yeah, which is why Twitter got rid of theirs too, or they didn't really get rid of it, but they stopped accepting people into the verification program. Although she says managed to convince them to give him a badge, even after they explicitly told him, no, we're not giving you a badge.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, so good on She Says for having that. But again, then it's one of those things you can't apply. It's just up to the platform.
Yeah, it was really funny. I think he got his verification badge the same day YouTube sent him an email saying he was losing it there.
Yeah, but when we're talking about verification badges, a Twitter verification badge is more prestigious than a YouTube verification badge.
Yeah, for sure. But the YouTube one didn't even make sense. Like, I get, because I did see some like lists of people on YouTube that like should not have had a verification badge.
Yeah, there's and I was going to bring that up. I think maybe the only issue here is like we're going to really rewind it back when the first verification badges were going out. There were multi-channel networks that were straight up selling their verification badges that were gaming the system. So Freedom was the worst one of those. So for example, essentially what they could do is, I know of this from Epos Vox, for example, and I've even been told this kind of third party from some other YouTubers, but apparently Freedom was known as like the guys to go to if you really want a verification badge. So you could go and partner with them, and then if they took your channel and put it in their managed content network as opposed to affiliate, so if they put it under managed and then submitted you for a verification badge, you could get your badge, and then you could just leave Freedom if you wanted to. So Freedom was doing that. They also created sub-networks, so people were straight up they were creating sub-networks under Freedom, and they were selling the verification badges. But then there were even some parts of YouTube that just gave it out. So Vadim M, for example, he's earned his badge. He has over 100,000 subscribers, but he had his badge long before he had 100,000, and he is I think he goes through the Russian-based YouTube, I want to say. And I'm sorry if I'm messing that up, Vadim, but he said that he actually contacted his local support, and he asked, hey, yeah, I see that badge. Can I have it? And the support said, okay, here you go. Your channel's verified. And that was it. And they didn't find out until later. They're like, oh, we're sorry. We weren't supposed to give you that badge, but we're not going to take it away from you. So it was an accident that he got it. But you also see, because of what I mentioned with Freedom, for example, all these other like little channels, because again, if you have under 100,000 subscribers, The only way you're supposed to get a badge is if you have if you're a public figure or if you have some kind of brand tied to you. And there's a lot of channels that don't have that. Like there's one, I'm sure some people have seen it. There's one called ALMAO. That's a channel, they don't have any content. I don't have their URL off the top of my head here, of course, but like I've seen them in comments before, and they always get asked, how do you have the verification badge? And they said they kind of just got it. They just asked for it. So there's a lot of people who, and I don't know who you saw, but I've at least seen it on my years in the platform. There's a lot of people who don't need the verification badge.
Yeah. The ones I saw were like egregious examples where it was like the novelty accounts named Barack Obama and stuff. Like, okay, like they are literally impersonating someone else. Like,
yes.
They should not be getting this check mark.
Okay, mine has just been memes. I didn't see anything that bad.
Yeah. Like, I get that YouTube needs to clean up some very bad verification badges out there, but like, there's better ways to do this. It seems like they probably could have just done, if you have less than 1,000 subscribers, you lose your verification badge. Anyone between 1,000 and 100,000 maybe gets questioned. Maybe come up with something more complicated for them. But
something like, please provide more information on why you should keep your verification badge. And if you like fill out this form to appeal it, and if you don't appeal by this date, or if we reject your appeal, then you're going to lose your verification badge, and you can always reapply once you hit 100,000.
But like, there were channels like Peanut Butter Gamer, who's currently sitting at 2.02 million, and she says again at 622,000, like, getting this email saying they're losing their verification badge. Like, these are pretty big channels. I can see She Says getting overlooked, but I don't know. I feel like Peanut Butter Gamer is kind of a cornerstone of gaming.
I think one that seemed a little more, not personal as in like they were attacking him, but one that I guess for lack of better terms is kind of more personal on this was Swigta. He's a really great bully YouTuber, like Bully the Game. He doesn't bully people, but no, he actually, when he hit 100,000, he applied to get verified. He got his verification badge, and he actually said, he's like, I've been wanting this because I've been trying to get it for a while, not just because I want it, but because there's so many other fake Swigtas here on YouTube. And I have brought it up with YouTube so many times, and they don't do anything about it, and they won't give me a badge. So now at this point, I'm the official one. I don't have to worry about it. And he even said to Team YouTube, he was like, you know, the issue I've been having for years of people impersonating me, that was completely gone at the moment I got my verification badge. And now at this point, it doesn't hold water. Those fake accounts, people know they're fake because they don't have my badge on there. But now you're taking this away, and I'm going to have to fight this issue all over again, which I've been fighting for years.
Yeah, it's, I don't know. Like, in YouTube, really, I don't know if it's as much of a problem now because I honestly just don't look at the comments on YouTube that often, but like a lot of the bigger YouTubers, you go to their comment sections and there's accounts with their name, but not actually them, being like, click on this link for free gift cards. And it's
thankfully
like
it's not as bad, but
thing.
It was quite awful for a while. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
But like, it's like you need something to combat the system, and one of the easy ways is just, you know, train people. You don't trust the account if it's the one on the channel that has checkmark. Also, I feel like YouTube really kind of, and maybe that's how they fix the issue by making their spam detection better, but like, why the heck is an account with the exact name of a channel that's large allowed to post underneath its videos?
Sure.
Like, it's like,
sure, that's something that really needs to get cleaned up.
And they'll start misspelling it. You'll start getting like Mr. Mario 2001 commenting underneath your videos saying, click here for my gift card giveaway. Give me your social security number, please. Like,
yeah, I think when you were talking about egregious examples, I haven't seen the Barack Obama one, but one I've actually seen before. Like, honest to God, I've seen this. I saw a channel that was verified called Mickey Mouse that was
that was another one
a ton of
on that list.
A ton of stuff they obviously did not have the rights to, but they were verified.
Yeah. It's like, oh, this channel got he got that old 1920s Mickey cartoon, and he got a little.
Oh, it wasn't even that. It was just.
Well, I know, but it's just like I'm just imagining from the perspective of like whoever approved that.
Right.
It's like, oh, looks legit to me.
Mm-hmm.
This is definitely Disney.
Yeah, no.
They definitely did go through their special mega corporation support people to get this.
People who are doing that though, like who are allowing an account like that, because it was an account that had over 100,000 subscribers. It's like, dude, they were not doing their job when verifying that account.
Yeah,
and it was verified at that point, because one thing with YouTube is, like, for example, if I go right now and I change my YouTube username, I will no longer be verified, and I have to wait a certain amount of time until I can. Well, it prevents stuff like that. So, like, for example, if I grow as Mr. Mario 2011 and then change my name to Mickey Mouse, I don't keep my verification badge.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, in regards to that, so there was and also looks like I got the dates wrong on there. It was the 19th, so it was a Thursday that happened. And in record time.
Yeah, that actually went away pretty quick then.
Yeah, in hopes here. Like, so all this we talked about was actually the 19th, not the 17th. So September 19th, all that stuff went down. September 20th, YouTube's CEO came out, and I'm looking at her Twitter, and she said, "To our creators and users, I'm sorry for the frustration and hurt that we caused with our new approach to verification. While trying to make improvements, we missed the mark. As I write this, we're working to address your concerns, and we'll have more updates soon." Because that's another thing as well, too. They were saying that in order to, in the future, like starting October, apply to get verified, it becomes ambiguous. It was pretty much going to turn into Twitter, Facebook, Instagram style verification. So what happened was, I saw that tweet and I was like, there were some people who were optimistic, and I guess I was just, I was in a status of not really caring. I was like, there's nothing optimistic about this. She's saying that she's heard us. That's it. There's nothing going on. An hour later, it was like about an hour later, she issued 2 updates. One of them was, "We've heard loud and clear how much the badge means to you. Channels that currently have verification will now keep it without appeal. We'll continue reviewing those channels to ensure we're protecting creators from impersonation. More on our changes," and she linked to a YouTube creator's blog. And that's another thing. I think I've ranted about that a little bit as well too. I just think it's awful that YouTube has this giant platform that they can create great videos. They have the architecture and everything to do. They can create great videos talking about these changes, and they do to a degree on the Creator Insight channel. So they could even use that as an official spokesperson channel, so to speak, for YouTube themselves, but they don't do it. They have a Google blog site that they go to.
Well, it's because they want to try and keep it quiet. Like, in this case, they affected too many creators. But imagine if they had only done this to people who were, sub 150,000 subs or something.
Right.
Who don't necessarily have a voice to get their audiences involved.
Well, hold on. You said sub 150,000. That's still quite a bit. Like, do you mean like
that's still quite a bit? I'm just saying, like, but like you get someone above that, like significantly above that, like. I'm saying that if you didn't have these really big creators who were losing it too, you didn't have their audiences harping on YouTube, would YouTube have been able to sweep it under the rug and just get rid of the badges without the controversy?
To be honest, David, I want to say I think people would have still spoken up, just because when you have 100 or 150,000, even let's say sub 150,000 subscribers, there's still many channels that have good fan bases.
Yeah. But
so you're not saying it for like all channels. Like, for example, with the when YouTube changed how they can monetize, they said you have to hit this many hours of watch time and you have to have at least 1,000 subscribers. Most channels who weren't hitting that watch time were dead. And if you did have that watch time, you had under 1,000 subscribers, so you didn't really have anyone fighting for you.
Yeah.
And then a lot of bigger YouTubers were saying, and I can agree with this to a point, but a lot of bigger YouTubers were saying, actually, this is a good change because the monetization policy is too loose right now, and anyone can upload anything and make money off it, which is a very dangerous precedent.
Yeah. But I'm saying if they publish videos about this kind of thing in the, YouTube creator or vlog channel or whatever, like, everybody will see it. As opposed to where if they just send out emails to those affected, not everyone sees it. So you don't get, I'm not saying PewDiePie was affected by the verification badge thing, but you don't get the PewDiePie bro-fist army coming in and flooding YouTube with YouTube hate.
Right.
And, I'm not saying people wouldn't have complained. It's just, would the number have been different in a way that the CEO of YouTube isn't going to step in and actually reverse things? Because YouTube also just does not have a reputation for going back on their crappy decisions.
I honestly think, realistically, I honestly think they still would have made change, and I think people would have spoken up, but I think maybe it would have been a different tune. I think people would have said, you already gave these creators their badges. They need to keep them. If you want to bump it up to 50,000, like 150,000 subscribers for the verification badge, that's kind of shitty of you. Like, as long, I think a lot of people would have said, if you want to bump it up to 150, fine. It is what it is. You all have your reasons for doing it, but don't take away badges from people who already have them.
Yeah, well, I was thinking more they would do whatever the new rules are right now, but only the people under 150 are the one losing their existing badges. It was just an example.
Sure.
But on that note, so like their supposed reason is that verification is confusing and people don't understand what it means.
Yeah, I thought that was absolutely ridiculous.
Well, I actually agree with that to some extent. I think the average person
yeah.
doesn't know what those check marks mean. But I'm sitting here on, obviously I'm in a browser right now. I don't know exactly what it looks like on phones, but I'm sitting here on Peanut Butter Gamer's channel, and he has a verification check mark, and you hover over the verification check mark because it's not super obvious. If you don't know what check marks mean around the internet, then you won't necessarily mean that is, you could see it as endorsement or quality mark or something.
But also it's like, dude, if you don't know what check marks mean around the internet, come on, man.
I feel like that's the average person. You have to calibrate for the average, 12-year-old who's using YouTube all the time. But so, I want to know more about this checkmark. What does this checkmark mean? So maybe I hover over it because that's how you get more information about stuff on a computer. And it just says verified. It doesn't say something like, this symbol means that this is the official Peanut Butter Gamer account or something. It just says verified. Verified what? Does it verify that his quality is good? Does it verify that he is Peanut Butter Gamer? Does it verify that YouTube endorses him? Like, it just isn't very meaningful unless you are involved in this space like we are, that you understand what this means and why it matters. There's not good education. Like, there's no discoverability about what this symbol means if you don't already know what it means. Like, you hover over the bell, it says get notified about every new video, which we know is a lie. But
yeah, that is a lie.
The bell, you see the bell, I've never used YouTube before. I have no idea what this bell symbol means. But if I hover over it, it tells me, if you click on this, you will be notified about every new video.
But even if I'm doing this on Twitter, for example, so I'm looking at this, and I'm looking at, Nintendo Live's Twitter, that's just the first one that came up, and if I hover over the verified badge, there's nothing that comes up. There's no tooltip, I can't click it, there's nothing. So it's the exact same thing on there. So
yeah, but Twitter has the same issue, and that's why they're not giving out verification badges.
Right, but then...
Because people see the verification...
That, I really don't think anybody on Twitter is getting the verification badge confused. I've never heard that. People look at it and think, oh, this is the official, for example, this is the official Nintendo Life account.
It's not the creators on Twitter, and it's not the people who are involved on Twitter. It's new people coming onto Twitter. They don't care about the people already using Twitter. They care about the people who are coming in and using Twitter for the first time.
To that, though, I would say
that's who
you
they
should
want to
learn
capture.
what it means then. That's just something that you'll learn with the platform.
I know, but I'm saying...
After spending more than an hour on it, it's like, oh, hey, you'll learn this little check mark here, either the blue check mark or the white check mark, depending on where you're on, means that, yeah, this is the official, I'm looking at another one, Kel Mitchell, for example.
I think you're giving the average person a little too much credit. And
I'm
also,
not
these aren't, and they aren't necessarily people who are going to come on Twitter and keep using it. Some of these people are people who are coming in and, reading that one Donald Trump tweet, and you go on Donald Trump's profile and there's a little check mark there. And like, it's been a pretty common issue that people have seen this as Twitter's endorsement of Donald Trump, especially when there's other politicians who don't have
I
it.
have not seen that. Like, I'm not doubting you. I
You
have
won't
not
see
seen
it on the
that.
platform. You see it in, like, comments on news websites or just the news websites themselves reporting that there's this check mark. Like, that's why these platform holders don't like their verification badges, because they've accidentally created this system that doesn't make sense to the average non-internet user. You gotta put yourself in the shoes of, you know, like your mom who doesn't go on the internet very often, and she wanders into Twitter and she sees this check mark next to Donald Trump's name, doesn't know what it means. Maybe sees as this is Donald Trump. Maybe she sees as Twitter endorses this account. Like,
I guess I can see that, but at the same time, I really do think those users need to kind of just learn what it is there, especially since it transcends so many different things now. So YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, they all have this.
Well, that's why I'm saying that they do need to learn, and the platforms need to make it so they are able to learn. They aren't just going to learn it through osmosis. They don't use computers every day like you and I do. They don't see this often enough to eventually figure out, okay, this just means that this account is big and, like, is the actual one. Like, there's just no discoverability on what it means if you don't already know what it means. And you may think you know what it means and be wrong and never question that, oh, this isn't a mark of quality. This is a mark of this is that person.
See, it's interesting to me because even when you're talking about off the platform, I've seen, like, you know, you use like the Donald Trump tweet as an example where like people might post about it on like Facebook or something, and that's where they'll complain about it. But I've actually seen the opposite where some news like that could be spread and people say, I hate using the meme, but like they'll say fake news because this is completely fake. That is a fake account right there because it does not have the verification badge on it.
Yeah. Like, there's definitely issues both ways. I'm saying, like, to the platform holders, they don't want to give out the verification badges anymore because they think it creates user confusion. But instead of not giving out the badge at all, they need to reduce the confusion through better education.
Right, and I guess
it's
with,
like
with that too,
like,
would it be that they're just going to take away more of it then too? It sounds like.
well,
That's what they were wanting to do. Like they wanted
that's
to,
what
I guess,
they want to do.
educate
I'm saying that there's other solutions and better education of this doesn't mean endorsement. This doesn't mean a mark of quality. This means that this is that person and that's it. And there's not good education around that. Like, I don't know. I feel like a lot of problems in computer software these days or technology they're trying to just solve it by getting rid of things that might have the potential to confuse people rather than trying to create better education around those things. Like,
and that gets
frustrating.
just looking at
Apple's been doing it a heck of a lot longer. I believe Android's doing it now, or maybe it's only some of the OEMs and not vanilla Android. But if an app crashes on those platforms, it just kicks you back to the home screen.
Yep.
You're just here now. We're not going to show you a thing telling you that the app crashed or
thankfully Android, I haven't
it.
seen. I don't think I've really. No, I guess it's like force close on that. I see when it freezes, but when it crashes, it just takes you to the app.
Yeah, it just takes you to the home screen.
Yeah.
Whereas in back in the day, back in Android Eclair, like, it would show a thing saying, Facebook Messenger crashed. Hit this button to send a report to the developer. Like, you could start arguing, oh, well, that button is useless. But, like, it could just tell you the app crashed.
Yeah.
But no, it's embarrassing that the app crashed. We don't dare want to make our users think that the app went wrong. So what do the users think instead? Oh, I accidentally went to the home screen, or oh, this phone is stupid, or something. Like, it just creates
this phone keeps kicking me to
confusion.
the home screen every time I use this app.
Yeah. And, like, if you're someone who's a little bit more involved in technology, you know that an app suddenly closing and the home screen appearing means that app crashed. But, like, otherwise you have no recourse to try and find out how to solve the issue. Imagine your Photos app is always crashing. And, maybe if you knew that it was because it was crashing, you might go look up, Samsung Galaxy S9 photo app crashing, and you'll find out that, oh, you have a corrupted picture and you just need to go delete it with this other app, or, delete it before it tries to load the thumbnail or something. Like,
sure.
But without that knowledge, you just say photo app disappearing or Samsung Galaxy S9 keeps going to home screen, you might not be as successful with trying to look up a problem like that.
Right.
And I don't know. I
guess that's kind of, now since we're talking about crashes and all, that's going kind of way off of like what we're talking about with the badges themselves there. I get that it's educating the user. Yeah, it's educating the users, and I do agree with you that I think it's something that does come inherently with any platform. Like if you are on Facebook for long enough, even if you're just like a basic mom, if you're on Facebook for long enough, you should catch what a verification badge means. That should then transcend to other types of platforms. So
I really don't think that you will. I feel like Facebook doesn't make its verification badges very prominent at all.
I actually really don't use Facebook anymore, so I don't even know what the verification badge looks like. I know that it exists, but
don't think it shows up on posts. It only shows up on the page.
Really?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn's page right now. I just went through and found some ads. And Oculus's page, there's a little blue check mark there, but their posts do not have check marks.
That's awful.
So really, you only know that Facebook.com/LinkedIn is the official LinkedIn page. And once again, here you go. Here, I'm going to take a screenshot of this for you.
Sure.
I don't know if you ever overlay stuff on the videos for YouTube, but if you do,
I do not.
Chuck this in here. But, oh my gosh, I'm so bad at cropping. I should have just used Windows S. But yeah, if you go, you can.
Yeah,
if you're listening and you're
the Facebook
curious,
page itself.
You go on Facebook, but you hover over it and it says, a blue verification badge confirms that this is an authentic page for a public figure, media company, or brand. And there's a button to find even more about it.
That's done right, no doubt. So it looks like that Facebook is really the only one who's kind of doing it right then.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
we've checked anyway.
You can't do that on Twitter or YouTube or Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
So companies should be doing that, but I agree with you that education should be. Yeah, I agree with you that should be done more. But at the same time, I still have such a hard time buying from YouTube saying, yeah, there were a lot of people that were confused and thought that we were authenticating this, or not authenticating, but this was a badge of quality, not a badge of identity.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh well. At least it's been rolled back in record time. Again, as I said.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man.
It's just our users are stupid. How do we solve this problem? You can either make the users less stupid, or you can make the platform so the stupid users don't get confused. And everyone's going for the second one, and it's making all software way worse for the people who aren't stupid.
I agree with you, because people will never stop being stupid.
Yep.
Oh, wow.
At least Windows RT blew up on impact. That spooked me for a second, not gonna lie.
Windows RT, that's in short Windows where you can't run EXEs, right?
Yeah, basically it only ran stuff off of the Microsoft Store. They were generally maybe always ARM devices, which is part of their justification for getting rid of stuff. But I don't know. As a software developer and as someone who learned software development from a young age and does software development education, I used to do it at the middle school level. Now I only do it at the high school level. It kind of scares me how locked down everything's getting. Like, people don't have an open device anymore where they can just learn to do stuff. Like, I learned so much stuff just messing around with the family computer. Mm-hmm. And now, like, even if you're in middle school where you're like have enough cognitive capability to go and learn some of this stuff on your own, you go and, I'm going to go learn Python. Well, family doesn't have a laptop that's running Windows or Linux, or actually just doesn't have a laptop at all. All they have is an iPad. Oh, well, iPad's locked down. There's no, you can't do any dynamic code execution or not building, but like there's no JIT. For the 3 viewers of yours that know what that means. That's probably more than that. I should give them more credit. But you can't JIT on an iPad just because Apple doesn't want you to, because it's a security risk. So there is stuff that'll let you run Python on an iPad, but man, it's bad, and it's interpreted, and you never make anything real in it. It's just learn Python on your iPad. And it's just
I was
everything's just so
thinking, like,
closed and locked down.
you and I have talked about this, and I've seen it straight up. I've seen it like in my comment sections and such, but there's been so many people, like if I'm doing a tutorial over like one of my the last one that released, for example, let's say like how to jailbreak a PS3. There are so many, and it's been going on for years. There's so many people that say, do I have to use a PC to do this? Do I have to use a computer? Not like Mac or Windows or something. They ask computer. There's like, I don't have a computer. I can't do this.
Yeah.
I can't follow along on here. And at first I was like, okay, seriously, who the hell doesn't have a computer? And then you and I, we talked about this a few years ago, and it's like, no, actually, there is entire generations of people who, it's not like everyone in there, but there are generations of kids where it's no longer needed for them to have their own laptop or their own desktop. They get away with they have their phone as, all their casual stuff, and then for their work, they have an iPad or they have a cheap Android tablet of some kind. But aside from that, they don't own a laptop, they don't own desktop. Their family might not even have them in the house. Or if they have a desktop, it's locked up and it's only for work. It's like the parents only use that for taxes or something. But yeah, as you said, like it's gaming related stuff if they're starting to cross into that, which I'm happy that that's starting to be more of a way to pull people in. But it's just alarming now that I guess to me it's alarming that now a computer is no longer a staple in a home and you really don't need it anymore. A lot of places as well too. I guess you can kind of learn some hacky stuff with this, like my younger brothers, for example. They have phones and they have iPads, and they use the phones more now. There's shared computers, and they actually have laptops they're able to loan from the school. So therefore, there's really no need for them to have their own desktop or their own laptop at home. But those laptops are also incredibly locked down.
Yeah, they're super locked down.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Which
it
I
also
understand
bothers
why.
me.
I understand.
Yeah. It also bothers me because, like, I don't know. I see the iPad and Android tablets and phones phones have a little bit more productivity, but for the most part, they're entertainment devices. That's what they're good at. That's all they try to be. Productivity is like an accident. Like, yeah, there are some apps you can use to be productive on these devices, but like the main goal of most developers targeting these devices and the stuff built into these devices is entertainment and nothing else.
Yep.
And like, to do productivity stuff, you need something bigger, like a laptop. And like, it used to be that the laptop did double duty as entertainment and productivity, and now it just kind of doesn't.
Yeah. Well, it's even like one of those things, like, for example, with like the jailbreak example there, it's like, dude, like just get a laptop for like the random things or the office documents you need to make or something, because you just need something to go on to open up a browser, download a few files to a hard drive, put in a flash drive, and copy them to the flash drive. You can you can do all that on a phone or on a tablet, but you're gonna have to get adapters and all that stuff, and you're just making it harder for yourself.
Yeah, and it's just a pain. You're just going off the beaten path too, which you really don't want to do when you're trying to learn something.
Exactly.
I had a middle school age student at one point, and his dad was just the biggest Linux fanboy ever. And like, I like Linux. In my opinion, Linux stuff should always be on the server. I don't think the desktop experience of Linux is good or will ever be good because the culture around it's messed up for user experience, but that's neither here nor there, and the wrong conversation for that stuff. And I'm sorry for the hate mob in your comments now, but
hey, this is David saying it, not me.
Yeah, right. But so like, this dad was like, oh, well, can't he use Linux for this stuff? And like, I don't remember exactly what it was that the kid was trying to learn, because originally I was like going to this middle school after school program, like helping kids learn stuff on their own.
Very admirable. I rock with it.
And I don't remember what this kid was trying to learn. I was like, yeah, he can do this on Linux, but like, all of the tooling for this stuff that all of the professionals are using is not on Linux. It's on Windows, and I've seen this stuff on Mac, but I can't personally vouch for it. And, his peers are using Windows. That's what they're used to. This is what the industry uses. Like, I know you don't like Windows and you really like Linus Torvalds. I didn't pronounce his name right, but whatever. Maybe I did say it right. Who knows? I'm sure I didn't. Actually, it's Linus. I know that for sure. Because my dad always gets me crap for it because everyone says Linus. Anyway, that's very off topic. But it just kind of ended with, like, the kid was just kind of struggling on the Linux laptop trying to learn on his own, and he couldn't follow any of the tutorials that everyone else was using. I tried to help as much as I could, but
you're gonna have to change a little bit for your kid.
Yeah, you're just setting up your child for failure by being super weird about this thing that doesn't matter. And I feel like it's almost worse than that we don't have a laptop at home.
It is. On a more expensive side of it, I've actually seen, and I think this is more the school's fault. And I'll explain this here. One of my friends, he was going to GW, like George Washington, for his 4-year degree. And he told me everyone there, he said everyone uses Macs. They have MacBooks, MacBook Pros, whatever it is. And the school has the school is Windows based, and their office and all that stuff. So the student body is all Mac OS X and iPhone based, while as the faculty and staff is Windows based, and mobile doesn't really matter here. But pretty much any time there is a assignment that is given out that requires something that is Windows only, even like Office, for example, to a degree. I think this might have been resolved, but no, that's not a good example here. Like Office, you can still adapt here and there, but anything that is Windows specific that they have to use, they pretty much have to throw out the assignment. So the teacher just says, okay, this assignment is canceled. You all don't have to do it because 95% of the class is using Macs. So I think at that point, the student should be on Windows, but then again, it's gotten to such a high point on there where they should, at minimum, do Mac and Windows for the curriculum on that.
Yeah, I think...
and they're just really kind of shooting themselves in the foot because, again, it's not the students that are directly hurting from their grades and struggling. It's the faculty and the staff and the teachers there because they have to throw out any assignment that uses something exclusive to Windows.
Yeah, I don't know. I have a little bit of a warped perception of that because... as you know, our university didn't require a computer, so they didn't.
Yeah, I guess they didn't.
Yeah, that's why we have a lot of computer labs and stuff.
No, that makes sense.
Which is good, in my opinion. That's actually how that should be. But if they aren't if they're a bring your own PC college or university, they need to have computer requirements, and the people shouldn't have had Macs. You buy the tool for the job of whatever you're learning, and a lot of it depends on the courses being done. But if you're learning software development, you need Windows, hard stop, get over yourself.
If
you
have a
may
MacBook,
end up
you
in a
gotta
position
get Windows
someday where
running
you're
on
working
there somehow.
Yeah, you may end up in a position someday where you're primarily working in Mac OS, or you're primarily working in Linux, and that's great. Good for you. Sorry, as much as you don't like it, most of the industry is still on Windows. Certain industries, you're just going to get laughed out of the room if you want to use anything other than Windows.
Sure.
Every once in a while, I see these, usually hobbyists, but every once in a while you see a serious, I want to make commercially viable games, indie, who's I develop everything on Linux because I'm not supporting the Microsoft regime. And it's I'm sorry, all of your customers are on Windows. You're doing a huge disservice to yourself by primarily testing your game on a platform that none of your customers are running on. It's just a bad idea.
Sure.
And they're getting all bent out of shape because, this library doesn't have instructions for building on Linux. It's well, you're using game middleware. Games run on Windows and on consoles, and every once in a while on Mac OS, but that's dying pretty rapidly. IMO. You're developing on the wrong platform. You're using the wrong thing. It's if you want to make a Nintendo Switch game, so you bought a bunch of Xbox One developer kits. It just doesn't make sense. And then you get mad at Microsoft that they don't have a way for you to emulate the touchscreen on a Switch.
And it's dude, are you serious? Come on, man.
Yeah,
this
it's you're using the wrong tools for the job. And you can get by with the wrong tools, sure. But why? You're just creating a bunch of issues. And if you're going to create a bunch of issues for yourself, don't create issues for the people who are working with you or on the stuff for you. Like one of the issues I had at a previous employer, there was not really a lot of consistency on ID usage. And a lot of the developers just used like Notepad++ or Sublime unregistered. And, and the problem is, and then there's some of them use this ancient thing called CodeWrite, which gross. But like even CodeWrite would have been fine if everyone was using it on a particular project. But since no one was using, I said ID and listed a bunch of stuff that's not IDs other than CodeWrite. And like, you know, some people used Visual Studio, and some people used VS Code, although not nearly as many. Well, there probably is a lot more now because VS Code, I left around the time VS Code was getting real popular. But like there's so much inconsistency, and all of these tools require some infrastructure around them. Like Visual Studio needs to know where your code is and how it's meant to be built and all that stuff. And if you don't maintain that infrastructure, then it starts rotting pretty quickly. So you have like the two bros who like are like, I'm above using an ID. I'm going to use a text editor only because Visual Studio consumes a lot of RAM and I don't like seeing that in Task Manager. Hey, you know, our employer got us really nice computers for a reason. You shouldn't be worrying about RAM. But
so there was just like no consistency among.
But like, so those people are using Notepad++, so they add new files and stuff, and Visual Studio doesn't know about these new files, and it creates all these problems where all of a sudden all the people who are using Visual Studio have their Visual Studio broken. Some of the people using Visual Studio aren't very good at using Visual Studio yet, so they get frustrated and just start using Notepad++. And then all of a sudden, like, you end up in this situation where just there's so much fragmentation that people can't work on stuff anymore.
Sure.
It just causes so many issues. Yeah, I don't know. I was pushing for, and the summit, well, yeah, our team always used Visual Studio, but our team was pretty small and couldn't have like a big impact on that stuff. But we were pushing pretty hard because we were kind of like the Black Ops people who came in to solve other people's problems. And we were really, whenever we ended up in another team, we would always create some temporary Visual Studio infrastructure. So, because honestly, if you have good ID infrastructure, it's so, this is the other issue, is people don't learn how to use their tools. So then they get all like stupid and are just like, I've been programming in Notepad++ for the past 45 years and I've never had a problem. It's like, well, okay, but you've never explored these other tools, so you don't really know what you're missing. And they just get mad that it consumes memory or takes more than 2 seconds to start up. But like, yeah, it's a mess. It makes me mad. I'm gonna end this rant because I have no idea how I ended up on it.
I guess to end your rant here, I'm honestly running out of steam a little bit, but there's one last thing I like to cover with either myself or with anybody who's coming on here. But David, what games are you currently playing right now? I know you're doing game development, but I'm not sure how much you're playing or what you're playing.
I still try to find time to play games on occasion. Haven't gotten Link's Awakening yet.
I have it, but I have not played it because of one of the games that I know we're going to talk about.
Yes, so I did get Untitled Goose Game. Untitled Goose Game was like, it was really weird. I was like aware this game existed, but I didn't really know. Like, I knew about it real early on because I think the developer might have posted about it on Reddit, maybe.
It got immediate traction when it was shown at a Nintendo Direct.
That's not surprising. But yeah, I've been playing. Oh, geez. Sorry, I started the game and I got trapped instantly. But I've been playing Untitled Goose Game quite a bit. Since you were so hyped about it, I figured it must be good.
I remember you were talking, like, we were talking in chat about this, and you were just like, yeah, I'm buying this just because of Danny's hype. I don't know all too much about it.
Well, you said you wanted me to be able to talk about it in the podcast too.
Oh, I did say I was going to mention it to you, and then you're like, okay, I guess I have to buy it, which, like,
you said you wanted my opinion.
I did? Okay.
Yeah, because my opinion is so important.
It is.
Go buy this game. That's the official Pathogen-David opinion on this game.
I want to say it's until like maybe October 3rd or 4th. It's on sale for $15 US as opposed to 20. But the full game, even if I paid 20 for it, I would be all on board.
Yeah, I thought that was actually a day one only thing. Neat. But yeah, no, it's a lot of fun. It's like a weird little kind of a stealth game. They describe it as a stealth game. I'm not sure if I agree
They
with that
do
description.
Have you finished the game?
No, I'm on the pub level.
Okay,
I'm sure it does seem like the stealth.
As you get
stealth
further
is
in,
there.
It does get stealthier. Yes.
Okay, it gets more important to be stealthy. It definitely it seems like it's been ramping it up a little bit. I would say early on, it definitely doesn't feel like a stealth game.
No, at the beginning. Let's also, I mean, for anybody who doesn't know about this is a game where, in short, you are a goose and you're given a to-do list of certain things, and you're just described as an awful goose, and you're supposed to interrupt people's lives, and there is a task at the end that you're supposed to accomplish that ties everything together. But it's just a game about you being an asshole goose, and it's great because geese are assholes.
Yep, it's true. Basically the whole premise is that you enter an area and you try to cause as much chaos as you can until the person gets fed up with the fact that you exist and puts up a sign saying no geese allowed. Yes. And then you have to do one final thing to ruin their life, and they'll accidentally create a way for you to basically wreak havoc on other parts of the town. So like at the very beginning, you're like confined to this garden area, and you harass this gardener until he's like putting up a sign that says no geese allowed. And as he's putting it up, he's hammering it into the ground, and you, minor spoiler, but you honk at him, and when you honk at him, he gets startled and he accidentally hits his thumb, and then he grabs his thumb and stands up straight, and then he accidentally crashes a gate over, and then you can go through the gate and start terrorizing children.
Yeah, I was going to say the functions of the game, so you can obviously move around the goose, you can zoom in and out, but I want to say the functions are you can sprint, you can sneak around so you can put your head down, you can honk, of course, and you can flap your wings. Those are the four things that you can do in the game.
Flapping your wings hasn't been important for me yet. Maybe it becomes important later.
I haven't noticed. It's just I think it's just a cosmetic thing.
I take that back. It actually it's required for one of the missions in the pub level.
I know what you're talking
I won't
about.
Mention which one. Yeah, one thing I really like about the game is that there's just so many things you can do, and there's all these ways to harass the people in ways that aren't even like documented. Like, you know, you get your to-do list of like get into the garden, get the gardener wet, get his keys, but like there's all these hidden missions, like just to spoil one of them, lock the gardener out of the garden. Like you can trick him into going outside without his keys and lock the gate behind him.
I'll also put it like this, like it's in regards to, I guess this is where I wanted your opinion kind of on the game design and such. In regards to that, it's performing super well, which I know it's kind of going neck and neck with Link's Awakening, according to the charts here. Link's Awakening, I've heard many issues with the performance and such. Untitled Goose Game runs solid. It's great. It's been running just fine for me. I love the art style of it. I love it's minimalist in the best way. Like the way they integrate the sound and music is absolutely perfect. So like if somebody scares you off, the soundtrack adjusts to it. It's a completely dynamic soundtrack. I love it. And on top of that, I mean, it's a really funny, there's goals to it, but it's a funny, great sandbox, relaxing game. And I started playing this at work, and my coworkers were asking me if I was okay because I kept giggling every few minutes playing this. And I haven't laughed this much at a game since I played South Park: The Stick of Truth. And that was like, I was just like barreled, like doubled over laughing. I actually cried at that game because I laughed so much. So I'm not like dying laughing playing this, but it's just like infinite giggle fits from me when playing this game.
Yep.
Exactly. Hong Kong. I think maybe the only things, I thought of this morning, the only things I would want additional in the game, David, are I would want an option to hiss as opposed to honking, because geese can hiss. And also, I would like a way to change the color of the goose, because it looks more like a duck than a goose. like
this
when
is
I
what geese
when I-
look like. Some
well,
geese.
when I
There's
see, like-
there's geese with more patterns than this, but
see, I want like a pattern type goose. Like that's like a typical
like
one
a
to me.
Canadian goose.
Yes, exactly. Like if I could get that in a patch or something, that'd be awesome. And I think
Yeah,
those
that'd be
two are like
fun.
those two things are like the only recommendations I have because I've been hissed at by geese before.
Yeah.
Geese are assholes.
Yeah, we kind of skittered by it, but I kind of want to explain the soundtrack real quick because the soundtrack in this game is pretty cool. So the whole thing is just like there's normally no music at all. It's just like the background noise of like the city, just air and like
Sure.
birds chirping. But like if you start running around, you get this kind of like menacing music 'cause, you know, the goose is doing something. If someone's chasing you, you get like this anxiety music. But it's like it's just this really dynamic piano that just comes in perfectly, like just fades in and out. I don't know. I really like dynamic soundtracks in games, and this soundtrack is almost entirely dynamic, and it's reacting to what's going on. If someone gets mad at you, it starts kind of doing just like this kind of angry, like bassier music, and if they're like looking for you, it kind of makes like this inquisitive music. It's good. I like it. I'm sure someone who's better at music can explain exactly what the terms are and stuff, but
This would be a perfect time, like if we had you've met him before, but D Green. If we had you, D Green, and myself all the time, or I would just want to put you and D Green together in a room with you with the game dev background and him with the music background, because him and I, we talked about it on the podcast when he was on here, but we actually talked about how important music is to games and such. And what I had mentioned is I said, like, because we talked about he loves Super Mario Galaxy, but he didn't like the second one as much because it just felt like a repeat of the first. And he also didn't like Super Mario Odyssey that much either because he said he felt like the music took such a background compared to the Galaxy series. And I remember I said, like, I remember I played Galaxy, and my first 10-15 minutes of playing it, all I can describe is happy. Like, that is the exact feeling I had. It was just, I was so happy playing that game. And Donald was saying, well, try this. Fire up Galaxy sometime and play it normally, and then just mute your TV for like 10 minutes or even just disable the music if you can, and see if that ruins your enjoyment of the game, because I would be willing to bet a lot of your enjoyment and what made you feel happy was the sound design that came with the game.
Yeah. I can see that. Yeah. Actually, I'm gonna plug someone else's channel in your podcast. I'm sorry.
All right.
On the note of like breaking down music in games, there's this channel called Scruffy.
I
It's
have
spelled how it
not heard of
sounds.
them.
It's their icon. I think they're the first one that comes up when you just search Scruffy on YouTube, but that might be because YouTube knows I'm subbed to them. But their icon's just kind of like a black background with like Scruffy written kind of playful text. But he does a lot of arrangements and stuff, but he has, if you go to his playlists, he has like a whole, maybe his playlists actually aren't that organized, but, if you go through his videos, he has the arrangements, but he also has a bunch of stuff breaking down like trivia of the sound in, Splatoon and Pikmin, and he explains like why things sound certain ways. I don't know. It's pretty interesting. He's a little all over the place on his channel. It's maybe not the most focused, but I found his stuff talking about music pretty interesting.
Good to know.
Yeah, now I'm looking through. I guess that maybe isn't the main thing he does, but he does it for sure. There's also the 8-bit music theory channel is pretty interesting too in that regard. But anyway, yeah, music is good.
Music is good.
It's hard to do right.
But it's done extremely well for Untitled Goose Game.
It is done extremely well for Untitled Goose Game.
Yeah. So far, I mean, our impressions. I like David. You're at the pub on there. I've done my first playthrough on there already, and there's more that you can do. But it is like a short 2-3 hour game. But again, because as I've grown, I've liked those shorter games more because one, I could just knock them out, and two, I have more replayability because it's a lot easier for me to pick up and replay a 2-hour game as opposed to deciding to pick up and replay a 60-hour game.
And I think Goose Game actually can go a lot slower if you're not too focused on the actual goals it presents to you.
Yeah. Like
if you're just messing around.
For me, I'm one of those people. So, for example, I really love the sandbox element of Grand Theft Auto, and but at the same time, I like that it keeps me grounded with the missions. Because if you just throw me into a world and say, "Okay, Danny, do whatever the hell you want," that was really cool for me when I was like 9, 10 years old. But something after that happened, and now it's like I need some sort of objective to work through. So Grand Theft Auto, it's the missions for me. Untitled Goose Game, it's the to-do list. And like these are games where I will go around and I'll do things and I'll mess around, and it's really awesome even with Untitled Goose Game seeing what you can do and manipulate and such, but I'll still come back and ground myself to the list on there. But if you give me another completely a game where there's either no objective or the objective is not explicitly displayed to you, like for example Minecraft or No Man's Sky. Now granted, I'm talking about very first revision of No Man's Sky, like the first day it came out. I lose interest. That puts me to sleep if I don't have something that I'm working through and chipping off. I lose interest in the game, and that's just me.
Yeah Minecraft, I think, is a lot better with friends for that reason.
Dude, Minecraft literally puts me to
fuel
sleep.
each other.
It is. I don't really like that game, but I will say this. That's another one with the sound design, just going through building stuff and the music that, like the default music that plays, it is so calming to me. David, I quite literally fall asleep playing that game.
Yeah.
Like the past few times, even it's been years, but when people would try and sit me in front of it, they're like, "Hey, you're going to play it with us. We're going to make it fun for you." Within 20, 30 minutes, I'm about to pass out.
See, I'm like the opposite. Minecraft has robbed me of much sleep over the years.
Oh man, no, it's contributed to the dozen or so times I've played it. It has contributed to a good night's sleep.
Yeah, I definitely have a little bit more trouble playing Minecraft now without other people. Because, like, I don't know, I feel like I've explored that game quite a bit, and it's not as interesting to explore, and I don't necessarily want to build stuff as much now. I guess kind of a little segue there. I've also been playing Oxygen Not Included quite a bit now that it's out of early access.
I have not heard of that. Can you elaborate on it?
Oxygen Not Included, it's a colony management simulator game by Clay Entertainment, the people who made Don't Starve and such. And basically you have like a overview of the whole colony, but you can't actually do anything to it. You just have these little boys called dupes. They're not actually boys. There's all kinds of, it doesn't matter. The little people called dupes. I said boys with an I.
That sounds like, I think in Hurdy-Gurdy there were these little things called dupes that you could control.
But
yeah,
so,
or that
well, so
not
you don't
control, but you like navigate them around, I guess. Either way.
Yeah. So, you give them tasks to do. Like you say, go mine out this area, go build this machine, go fuel up this power generator, stuff like that. And the loose goal in the game is to kind of get to space. And there's all kinds of things that could go wrong. It's called Oxygen Not Included because you're like on an asteroid, and all you start out is I forgot what it's called. It's like this portal thing where you can get more duplicates out of it sometimes, or dupes. And you have 3 duplicates, and they have to do stuff. So like they start out with a little bit of oxygen, their landing area, but you have to go and find ways to produce oxygen. So like one of the basic ways to get oxygen early on is to get algae and get the algae to process the carbon dioxide into oxygen. And I don't know, it's pretty cool, but it also does not give you a lot of direction.
I couldn't do
like
that.
I said,
though.
if you can get, so it gives you some early on, and then you have the tech tree to kind of keep you busy. But yeah, there are not a ton of explicit goals in the game other than get to space. So if you're okay with the goal being distant, then maybe you'd still like it. But I would at least go watch some videos of it being played just to get an idea of what it is, just so you can understand colony simulators, because they are neat. But like Oxygen Not Included, you are reacting to problems, like you messed up your oxygen production and now all of your dupes are suffocating, or you didn't produce enough food so now they're all starving, or they're all stressed out so they're peeing everywhere and barfing, and I don't know if I don't think they pee in response to stress, but if they don't have that good
You don't
enough
wanna
access to a
find out,
bathroom,
though.
they will pee everywhere. And when they pee everywhere, they can poison your water supply and things like that. So like in that sense, you have goals because you have to react to these problems all the time. I will say though, if you go and watch some like footage of Oxygen Not Included, I like Grind This Game personally because he's chill and he's not super ridiculous like some of the Oxygen Not Included YouTubers. But Rimworld it doesn't have any explicit goals, I don't think. But the
Rimworld,
game
you
is
said,
designed.
another game you're playing.
Rimworld's I'm not playing Rimworld. It's just a similar type of game. It's another colony simulator.
Okay.
I have Rimworld. I can't quite get into Rimworld for reasons that are probably too lengthy to get into, and I don't know if I can really articulate them well anyway.
Sure.
But Rimworld is designed with they have a term for them. They're like directors who try to kind of steer the story. And it's basically this AI that just causes stuff to happen. So like you'll get like raiders coming in, and you'll have like a solar eclipse that causes all your farms to die, and like there's different seasons. So like there's a lot more to react to in Rimworld. Oxygen Not Included. I think if you're good enough at anticipating problems, you'll never have any. In my opinion, I'm currently playing on one of the higher difficulty maps. On the higher difficulty, and I'm not having issues, and it's almost a little annoying. But Rimworld, on the other hand, there's different types of the AI director things, and one of them is like called Random Randy or something like that, and he just causes utter chaos all the time.
Sure.
But so Rimworld kind of forces objectives on you all the time.
Not sure how I'd feel about that. I guess
like that.
I'm also realizing a lot of these, even if I watch gameplay and reviews and such, I just need to play them. That's my thing.
Yeah. Oxygen Not Included, I think is it's worth playing just to get an idea of what's going on in that genre, because it's an interesting genre and it seems to be growing. I don't know if this is the most accurate because I didn't play it that much, but Dwarf Fortress is another colony simulator.
All right.
I believe there might be people who disagree with me on that. It definitely has similar themes, but yeah, or base building, I guess is what they label it on Steam. But I'd say that's probably accurate. It's a similar thing. But and there's like priorities on all these tasks you give to, so you have to prioritize things. So if you accidentally prioritize your digging too high, then no one will ever fill up the coal generator. So then your oxygen production will die, and you won't have any more oxygen. Everyone will die.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I've also been playing Borderlands 3.
How is that?
It's pretty good. I'm sure there's some people who would be real upset because Randy pitched forward, but I'm
not really interested in the
closely,
politics
so
of the game. I'm really
opinion.
more interested in the game itself, I'll be honest.
Yeah. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun. If you liked the original Borderlands games, you'll like Borderlands 3. That's how I feel about it. The graphics are better. The environments are more interesting. The characters are a little bit more built out. One of the things I like is that the NPCs are more interesting.
I'm actually going to ask you, what platform are you playing on?
I am playing on Epic Games Store on PC.
Okay, have you had performance issues on it? Because a lot of people have been
Nope.
complaining about the performance of it on PC specifically.
Oh, really? I've heard the opposite. I've heard nothing about PC performance, but so many issues on PlayStation.
I guess so. I guess I should say it's been on everything, but I've even heard the same on PC, just with a lot of people with really powerful rigs are having trouble keeping a steady frame rate, and it kind of came to like a new hyper version of Denuvo is running on there.
Oh.
That just eats up all the resources, because it kind of, I guess... I didn't know that, I'm not even going to speak on it because I really don't know the details. I lightly skimmed it, but I have seen apparently it's from some new variant of Denuvo that's on there that's not very streamlined in terms of performance.
I don't think it's necessarily a performance issue. I think there's probably a performance quirk with particular hardware configuration. I don't have a very modern computer in that regard. I have a 4770, which is pretty old at this point. A GTX 1080, and I run the game.
They'll still get the job done.
Well, yeah, but the main thing I want to highlight is that the CPU is pretty dated at this point. So if there's in Denuvo, would be CPU bound issues, I would imagine.
I gotcha.
And it's like DDR3, like it's an older machine compared to what people would call super high-end rigs. And I run the game on almost ultra with a steady 60. Like,
Okay.
it's fine.
Gotcha.
Like I said, I don't doubt that there's probably some hardware configuration that causes quirks with the game. I think people probably just want to blame Denuvo because it's popular to blame Denuvo. I'm not saying Denuvo's good.
You're really not wrong on that.
But
yeah.
I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of hate around Borderlands 3, and that people are going to try and create issues where there's maybe not issues. I have not had issues, is my personal experience. I don't doubt that maybe there are some issues. I think people, if they are having issues, are probably attributing them to the wrong thing. But, you know, and I'm also, in theory, I'm playing on the platform it was not optimized for. In theory, it was optimized for AMD stuff because that's who did that was their hardware partner.
Sure.
But, you know, I'm opposite on both sides of that equation. Yeah, no, it's been good. I can't max it and get a stay 60. I get dips down to like 40, 50 if I try to max the game. But I did above the recommended settings, and it's been fine.
I gotcha.
And I'm pretty sensitive to frame rate fluctuations. And I think I've actually had the FPS counter up on the game because I turned it on. I think I did turn it off eventually, but I was too lazy to turn it off for a while. Yeah, no, I've been fine with performance. I've heard atrocious things on PlayStation though.
I gotcha.
Apparently PS4 Pro, it's like a balmy 25 FPS. It's
I haven't I need to look through all of Digital Foundry's video on that. I watched part of it. I didn't see all of it, unfortunately, but I have seen apparently that it's just performance issues on all the platforms from what I've seen, at least. I hope that does get patched up though, because it doesn't seem like a game that would really have intense performance issues, but Digital Foundry was kind of citing more maybe just not stretching out, getting used to the new engine, because it's running on the newer Unreal Engine from what I understand.
Yeah, I don't know. And me and the two guys I play with have never had any performance issues, and one of them in particular is kind of a drama queen with his rig not performing up to his expectations. So
I mean, you spend so much money on the thing, you want it to perform well.
Yeah, no, I know. He just definitely complains about it faster than anyone else. And I don't think either of them even adjusted any settings. I adjust settings because I like adjusting settings.
Sure.
But
they're just like, this doesn't play at super ultra.
Yeah, one of them has two 1080s in Crossfire, or not Crossfire, SLI. And the other has, I think, a 2060 or 2070. I don't remember which. And they've been good.
Right on.
But obviously, those are some pretty high-end GPUs, or at least very modern in the case of the 20 series. But yeah, I don't know. We haven't had issues. If it maybe it has bad performance issues on the lower end stuff, but definitely not my experience.
Right on. Yeah. I'll rattle off some of my list here.
Yeah. Say I have another game, so you don't want to let me keep talking, or I'm just gonna start going through the whole back catalog here.
Yeah, I was gonna say I have. Well, you've gone through 3 games. I have like 5 others I need to go through, which some of them I can just knock out. But
okay, everyone go buy Overland. There you go.
There we go.
It's really hard.
Yeah, the ones I've been playing. So I did finish this finally. For anybody who's been listening to the podcast, I've been talking about this for the past 3 months, and hopefully I don't need to bring it up again. Not in like a bad way. It's just it's finally done. The House in Fata Morgana. I've been playing that, which David, you and I talked about this. Like, it's
is that your weeaboo game?
Yes, yeah. Apparently it's not as weeaboo as other visual novels, but it is the second visual novel I played through. And what's up?
Nothing.
Well, I was gonna say on this that I picked it up on Vita. It's been great, but I feel like I definitely bit off more than I could chew on there, because I was thinking, it's not gonna be all too long. And for some games, I've been
played
using...
a VN before.
Say what?
Have you not played a visual novel before?
I only played one other, which was Deathmark, and that took me about 15 hours. But from what I've seen, like many other visual novels, they hover anywhere from 10 to 20 hours. And no, this one, the main story, the main one, The House in Fata Morgana, is like 40 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thankfully, it's like 99% reading, 1% decision making. There's really nothing that you can fail at on there.
As is tradition.
Yes. But the reason why I say I bit off more than I could chew is because I got the Dreams of the Revenant edition, which is the best value you can get, but it is technically 3 games in one and like 20 short stories. So I got the platinum on it. I finally went through everything on there, but I went through House and Fata Morgana, got all the extra endings and stuff. That was great. I went through the prequel story, and then there's technically a sequel story. Actually, not even technically, there is. So it's cool. You get 3 games for the price of 1 in there. And then on top of that, I went through all the short stories, which I didn't need to because I think this bugged out. I ended up getting the trophies, all the trophies before I was supposed to, but I kind of said, you know what? I've been so invested in all these games. I've spent over 60, 70 hours reading these. I might as well just read off all the short stories so I can satisfy my own urge, and I can be like, hey, I can take this game out, put it on the shelf, it's done. I would recommend looking into it a bit if it's something like, just to the listeners, if it's something that seems like it would pique your interest story-wise, I can definitely recommend it. Just to be prepared, it is a lot of reading, and I don't think it's a perfect visual novel, mind you. I thought it was great. A lot of people are saying it's like one of the best ones out there, which I'm not sure if I'm just not super into the visual novel thing in that case then, if I don't agree with them or what have it. But like one thing, for example, is I started up another called Root Letter, and I noticed within 5 minutes, that one did a better job at keeping my attention, just because there's a lot more things that are going on screen. It's more dynamic, and like as opposed to Deathmark had the House and Fata Morgana, it's all reading. Deathmark had a lot of looking around and such, and then there were times where it's like, because you would be used to like looking around, searching for clues and everything, and some of it was timing based. Then when you got to the reading section, some of them were so long that it was annoying. You just wanted to get back to the limited gameplay that was there. But Root Letter, if you go in just wanting to read, you don't really want to play, it still satisfies your urges pretty well because the screen is dynamic enough. And like what is happening is entertaining enough to look at for long periods of time, which is something that I honestly got bored of when I was playing House and Fata Morgana, where there's just not that much change. And I noticed that the changes, like just characters moving and such, they get better, a little less limited. You see less limitations on the newer games, like the prequel and the sequel. But the initial one, no, it is very static and it's very basic in terms of what you're visually looking at. And it seems kind of silly picking that apart for a visual novel, but again, when it's something that you're quite literally looking at for like 60, 70 hours on a screen, it's just something that you do think about.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Like, I get a little tired of reading on VN sometimes. I've played a handful of them, but like Doki Doki Literature Club, I need to play through that.
I still haven't touched it.
I played the beginning of it. I guess I played 3 hours of it. I guess I played quite a bit of it. But I don't know. I just had trouble getting invested in the characters. And like, I know where it goes, you in the comments, but I just, knowing that I just couldn't stay interested in it. Gameplay part of it just wasn't interesting at all to me.
So I'm going to ask you this, and I want to see if you can agree with it or not. One realistic kind of grounded look I've seen it is people have said it's one of those, it's not original. The premise of it, it's not super well done. There's been other visual novels that have done a better job at the premise. But the big thing is, if you're brand new to visual novels, it might be a giant shock to you when you play through it the first time. But aside from that, it's one of those games, it's more fun to see how people are reacting to it as opposed to you playing it.
Yeah, I can see that being a thing. But yeah, I don't know. I need to play more of it later because I do want to go and experience this weird cultural phenomena that has 117,000 reviews on Steam. Yeah, it is free, so there's no risk at trying it. It also doesn't support a controller. That's actually my biggest issue. A game like that, I'd rather play on the couch.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's one thing I learned very quickly with visual novels. That's why I'm playing a lot on the Vita.
Yeah.
I treat my visual novels like the three. I'm gonna include all three of them in there. So I'm like the 5 visual novels I've touched in my lifetime, I treat them like books. So if I'm chilling on the couch, I want to have it in my hand, I want to read it. If I'm going to bed, as opposed to reading a book, I've actually been reading visual novels. I quite literally am using my Vita like as an e-reader right now in that sense. But the first time I played through Deathmark, I ended up borrowing it on PS4, and it was great. Don't get me wrong, I really enjoyed it, but I learned how much of a mistake it was to play through it on PS4, because I was playing it in my basement on my couch, and I would rather have just had it on Switch portably or on the Vita, which I end up buying it on the Vita later, but I really just don't want to be looking at my big screen TV just reading endless text. And I'm not saying that like in an RPG
fair.
sense where it's like, oh, there's a ton of text. It's like, no, this game is all reading.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. I don't really play games portably anymore.
I've been playing in handheld a lot more because of the Switch. Like, just it's really nice, just like, I don't know, just like chilling on my couch or something.
My Switch only gets used in handheld when I'm on an airplane or stuck in an airport, I guess.
That's fair.
And then just now when I was making Untitled Goose Game honk at you.
Honk honk.
Honk honk.
Yeah. I was going to say, speaking on that, one game I have been playing, which a lot of games on Switch I've been preferring to play in handheld mode. But I picked it up a bit ago, but I finally started playing it, the Spyro Reignited trilogy. I started playing through the first Spyro. It is great playing it in handheld on the Switch. It's very relaxing. I was not expecting that. It is so relaxing. I love the sound on there. I love the music. And just, I never thought of it as a relaxing game when I was a kid. I always thought of it as an enjoyable game, but I never was relaxed by it. But it's one of those... I
didn't know you had played it as a kid when you were saying
it
was relaxing. I thought... For some reason, I got the impression when you told me you got it that it was your first time playing it.
No. I really enjoy the Spyro games on PS1. And we had talked about this before, but like for anybody that doesn't know, outside of the Spyro the Reignited trilogy, this is the one exception. Do not play any Spyro game that is not on PS1. Anything after PS1 is bad, because I believe it went to a different development team, and they just... I just remember playing Spyro Enter the Dragonfly, and it looked much better, but it had no heart behind it.
I think that's the one I had. This is the one I had on
GameCube. If it was your
GameCube.
first one, I'm sure it would have been good, but for me, coming from the
No, I
first
didn't
three
like it.
Spyro... Oh, okay, so there we go. The same thing happened with Crash Bandicoot. The first 3 games, and I didn't play Crash Bash. I really didn't, so I'm not going to include that. But the main trilogy and Crash Team Racing were fantastic on PS1. Then on PS2, we got Crash: The Wrath of Cortex, and it felt like it just had no heart behind it.
Yeah, I'm looking at the Wikipedia page for the Spyro series, and it looks like Insomniac actually is who made the original one.
Yes, they did, and they did a fantastic job on those.
And then, so Enter the Dragonfly was made
mic,
by 2 different developers. Huh?
You're going to have to move close to your mic, I think.
Oh, sorry. It's because I was looking at my monitor that's far away from the mic. But then, like, the newer ones, like, there's a GameCube one. I actually had this one, too, now that I think about it. I had Spyro Season of Ice on the Game Boy Advance.
Have not played that one.
Digital Eclipse, too. I don't even recognize them. I bet they're defunct.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I've been playing Spyro, the first one.
Yeah, they're dead.
Full disclosure, David, I'm actually, and everyone listening, if you've got this far, thank you. I'm actually trying to rush this a little bit because I am hungry and I'm a little bit tired. But
it's okay. We're setting a new record on your podcast length.
No, actually, well, yeah, no, we are. Also, my girlfriend and my dog came in at one point, so I know there's stuff going on downstairs. But nothing damning is what it looks like. But just they were trying to get my attention. No, so Spyro. It's great on Switch, like in handheld. I hooked that up to my TV. Oh my god, it is ugly. The Switch version, like in dock mode, is dude, it looked awful. And then I even went in and I was like, okay, it looks kind of blurry, so let me turn off motion blur, which I had already done when I started the game, and it was disabled. And I'm like, okay, this is just going to be a handheld only game for me. So it's one of those games. I have no doubt it would be much better if I played it on PC, PS4, or Xbox One. But that Switch version, like, it's a handheld only game to me. Yeah, which isn't too bad. But if I do ever want to play it on my TV, I'm probably going to get it on PS4, knowing me.
Yeah. Spyro's been passed around between a lot of developers and even publishers.
It really has
over the years. It looks like, which is, yeah. When you see developers doing crazy deals to try and keep their games IP, you should support it.
Yep,
Mr. Viewer. I know that Epic exclusive sucks, but it's sometimes necessary.
The last one here I wanted to mention that I'm playing. There's one other game I can mention, but for time wise, I'm gonna hold it until next month, which will be more fitting. But the last game I've been playing has been Astral Chain, which is phenomenal. Absolutely love it. That's actually the flip side, David. I was gonna say it's one of those rare Switch games. I don't want to play it handheld. I want to play it on my TV, and it looks fantastic on the TV. And it's been great. I've absolutely loved it. I love everything about it. The only thing for me is that I do kind of sort of associate it with my basement flooding. Because I said multiple times that
weekend, you can enjoy it.
Oh no, I still love it, but I'm just like, you know what? It helped me. On the flip side, I would not have discovered that flooding so early on if I didn't go downstairs at that point. But at the same time, god damn it, all I wanted to do was go downstairs and play Astral Chain. But no, I couldn't do that Labor Day weekend. But it's good. Trust me, it's real good. So to anybody who's listening, it's fantastic. I highly recommend it. Fantastic Switch exclusive so far. And I know it's from the same developers who did Bayonetta and all of them. Out of all those games, like the Platinum games, this has been my favorite so far.
Neat.
Yeah. Anyways, let's go ahead and wrap this up.
And if you get it, don't play it in your basement.
No, although I'm going to go back down and play it, I guess.
If you start feeling damp, don't say I didn't warn you.
Dude, I'm a scream if that happens. Anyways, David, to wrap this up, well, do you have any other games that you've been playing?
I want to quickly mention Overland. I haven't gotten super far in it because the game's hard as crud. But Overland's really cool. It's a little kind of roguelike game. People have been comparing it to like XCOM meets what's that game? The Oregon Trail.
Okay, weird.
And so basically you start out on the East Coast, you're trying to get to California, there's these alien things attacking you. You have a limited number of views, it's all turn-based. You're super weak, it's very hard. I beat the second area, but my car exploded, so I couldn't actually leave the second area.
Oh, damn.
And I think I went through like 4 of those stupid here's your last chance to get a car screens before all my people died. Definitely don't get attached to your characters if you play that game. It's super cool though if you like turn-based strategy games.
Noted.
Would recommend. Just know that it's pretty hard. It's not like Into the Breach where it's like real forgiving and you can always out-strategize the AI or the situation. Like, I am pretty sure I've ended up in situations of Overland where it was probably impossible to win. Although maybe there were definitely trying to get the car when I didn't have a car was impossible sometimes. I feel like there were a couple where I probably should have just driven away and I didn't drive away and I died trying to get like gas or something. Yeah, it's a good game. It was in development for a really long time, so some of you might go look it up and be like, "Oh, that game came out."
I'll have to look it up after this.
Who's it made by? It's made by people who made something else real popular. Overland is made by Finji. Finji, who they published Night in the Woods. They made Cannibalt.
Oh, okay.
They made some other stuff. I think they only published it. They published Wilmot's Warehouse, which has been making a little bit of a splash on Twitter lately. But Haven't played Wilmot's Warehouse yet. That also looks really cool though. So if you like puzzle games, maybe go check that one out. Pretty cutesy little wholesome game.
Good to know.
Or at least it looks pretty wholesome. But yeah, Cannabolt's definitely what Finji's known for, which is kind of funny because it's pretty ancient at this point. But yeah.
Right on. Anyways, let's go ahead and wrap this thing up, man. Put a bow on it and send it out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. David, where can people find you online if they want to know more about you or talk with you, whatever it is? And I'll put the links down below in the description on YouTube here.
Yeah. People can find me specifically on Twitter. This is probably the main platform I'm kind of active on. Under @Pathogen-David. There's no dash or anything, just Pathogen-David. You can follow Pathogen Studios on @Pathogen Studios on Twitter. You can also find us on Facebook and such. And then you can go to pathogenstudios.com and check out the story teaser for Back to Her. You can also find a link to our community Discord there, which is very small but growing. And then a direct link to our Facebook if you don't want to search for it.
Right on.
But I think that's it. I'm also on Instagram, but I'll never post on Instagram, so don't bother following me there unless you want to get a random photo in your timeline someday of a tree.
Hey, that's not bad.
It's not the worst.
Yeah. Anyways, as for myself, again, I am Mr. Mario 2011. Thank you so much for listening to this. This has been the longest episode of Mario's Minute, by the way. But thank you so much for listening to this almost 3-hour episode of Mario's Minute. If you want more like this, either on YouTube, you can check out my channel, Mr. Mario 2011, or if you want to listen to this in MP3 form, because this is a podcast first and foremost, you can look up Mario's Minute on your favorite podcasting platform, and it's available on most, but not all of them, but most of them, so we should be all good. Now, David, one thing I want to do, and I try and pass this on to the guests here, at the end of every episode of Mario's Minute, I try, if I remember, to pick a keyword, so we know that if somebody uses this keyword that we choose in a comment on the YouTube upload this, we'll know they made it until the end. David, what do you think would be a good keyword?
Does it have to be one word or could it be a phrase?
I mean, I try and limit it to one or two words.
Oh, okay. Well, that kind of ruins my idea. I don't know. What even are words right now?
How about goose?
Goose, that's a good one.
Yeah, if you use
goose.
the word goose, if you want to talk about the time a goose ended up hissing at you outside of a mall with your girlfriend like it happened to me one time, but we're not going to be talking about that in this episode, or if you want to talk about your thoughts on Untitled Goose Game, or really if you just want to say goose in a comment somehow.
Well, I think they gotta talk about geese in a way where it's obvious they're not only talking about Untitled Goose Game.
No, David, that's not the rules. If they use the word goose in their comment, that means they've made it until the end.
But what if they're just talking about us talking about Untitled Goose Game?
I mean, I guess we won't know. You know what? And that's just part of the surprise.
They're certainly a surprise.
Anyways, this is Mr. Mario signing off. Thank you all for watching and listening, everyone, and until next month.
Stay sexy, don't get murdered.
Truly.